Tonight, some real intense Doctor Who debate that will get you behind the sofa as we go live with the Sense channel at 6.
Well, hello. Let's get myself set up here. You know me, I'm always rubbish at this. Well, a massive welcome to our monster show. Tonight commemorating our live return to the Sunday night schedule. Did you miss us? Plenty to get our teeth into or fangs into tonight. So let's have a go, eh? So, bit of a housekeeping, of course. First, check your subscriptions, will you? Have you subscribed? Give us your support and thumbs up. Thanks for all those who have, but obviously we're in the reeds, looking and looking. I mean, we churn out our various content. I mean, for example, the Who Pets have been out and about. They were recently in Manhattan, Niagara Falls, and Toronto. No expense spared for you lot, I tell you. And no blushes spared for me, I tell you, when people watch us filming. You can contact us, of course, at the usual places. On X, our Facebook fan page, and on Gmail at sensosphere@gmail.com. Let's get quickly through this. Just to remind you, because we're now back live on Wednesdays at 7, live on Sundays at 6. Yet we're back in business. And of course, tonight is our monster debate. In this muddle we are living in on Doctor Who currently, the 90s were the wilderness years. I call these the bewildering years. Which monsters would you like returned with the CGI we have now, the effects we have now, the budget we have now? With such a long-running show, some of our favourite monsters have been retconned, revived, evolved, changed, given origin stories. So I'll ask my panel, and I'll ask yourselves tonight, Doctor Who monsters, revive them, regenerate them, retcon them, or respect the originals and restore them to that classic original? Okay, so last little bit. On Wednesday, we came back, of course, and we did the Horror Fan Rock. And of course, we had the Rutan in that. And funnily enough, my first panelist did a better version than that thumbnail. There it is. There's Daryl Joyce's iteration of Horror Fan Rock. There's mine. Cheat. And there's good old Daryl Joyce's. So, of course, without further ado, I'm going to say hello. So, Daryl Joyce, great to have you on our channel. Good to see you.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, and I'm really appreciative you've come on, and thank you for, I mean, your artwork's on Twitter, I'm following that, and your calendar's available, and we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about various things, but I know we'd had little text chats where you said you're just quite happy to come on, but that's such an evocative shot that you did there for Horror Fan Rock.
Yeah, I'm trying to capture the character of the shipwreck and everything that's going on.
Absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. Look at that compared to mine. Look at that. But yeah, oh, that's fantastic. And so, and we also tried on Wednesday to do a kind of skit on it with the puppets. So the Horror of Ron Rock. If you didn't see it, everybody, it's on the Wednesday show there. So as we discuss, Daryl, and I'll get my other panelists on, but as we discuss the monsters and what we want to do with them and which ones we would prefer to bring back, I'm going to remind everybody who's watched our channel before, I'll have my Doctor Who Gold, where basically, go to Facebook page, Photo Research Group, and you will see on there some rare photographs from most of the Doctor Who stories, and I've used a few tonight. So, for example, if Daryl mentioned the Silurians, you might see some rare footage as well. As we're talking, I thought it might just kind of give it a few layers there. I mentioned the Silurian, that's one of yours, of course, and I'll be fascinated to talk about your reimaginings as well. So I can't wait to get that item going, Daryl. So let's get my panel on. Gary, good to see you. You haven't been away, but I've been away, of course. So good to see
No,
you.
you were in my neck of the woods on the other side of my country. You made it. You survived it. You made it back.
We did.
And I've got to say, I am so thrilled to be on with Daryl, whose talent I am just in awe of. And I ran back to get my copy. This is one of my prized possessions. This is unsolicited plug from Daryl.
Yep.
This is one of the most gorgeous Who-related books that has ever been created. And I could look at this 24/7 and still find new things. So Daryl, you are a master.
Okay, I've enjoyed all your contributions. I agree with a lot of what you say, so it's good to meet you.
Well, you've got loads of people in the thread already. Daryl's a legend, Divine and Dragon, Daryl Joyce, howdy. And there's a lot of people, and we'll bring them in, of course. Very happy to see Daryl on, and I'm thankful you've given us your time. We've also got Jeremy there. Oh my God, he's on his Dalek annual, is he?
You caught me at it.
Caught you at it again, yes. So how are you, Jeremy?
Not too bad, are you? Great.
Yeah. I'm raring to go. I mean, I thought, look, if we're coming back Sense for Your Live, I need to do a big monster program, a monster return, monster debate. So there we go.
Yeah, the monsters are back.
Get, a Doctor Who monster illustrator on, that would be handy. So here we go. And the last panelist here is Michael. Hello, good to see you.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Well, we're all good. We're all raring to go. I know you're salivating away there, aren't you, to get into the grips?
Something like that.
I mean, on your channel, this is what you did the other day, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a weird analogy I did where it was basically I woke up yesterday morning and thought of Doctor Who as having fans on a big ship sailing through the years, and on this ship, the Who ship was there, and we went through uncharted waters, and we had obstacles, but we were there united. And I had this weird idea that the seas have become choppier and choppier in recent years, especially after Russell T Davies took over. And I had the weird analogy that he changed the name of the Titanic ship, which was called the Who ship, to the Titanic, and Shooty Gapwell was a giant iceberg. So I did this really daft AI thing the other day. You can see the TARDIS in the sea. You can see Shooty as the iceberg. And hearing about potentially that there's a season 3 with Shooty, I had also the analogy that maybe Russell T Davies has fired torpedoes at the Titanic as the final kind of damage to the ship. I know it's weird, but there you go.
Well, there you go, Thread. Thread, we've got the monster debate. We've also got the news. Now, this is the news we'll be discussing first and foremost, because there's some tasty morsels there, and I'll be fascinated to know what you think. The other day, I was thinking, gosh, there's no news. And here we go. Series 3, is it commissioned or not? Is it does it bother you or not? We've got Shooty's season 3 talk cut, edited from the chat show. Remember, he said one thing and it wasn't shown. Manan says the Doctor is asexual. Here. The new cast announcements.
Sexual.
Yeah. And Happiness Patrol did another version at the BFI because the balls up the first time. So there's plenty of items there. So, of course, if you're all kind of warmed up, you know that I like to kind of get us going. So here we go with the news Doctor Who dispatches. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Let's go dramatic. I mean, we are Doctor Who geeks after all. I mean, any news kind of gets us excited. So let's start with this then. I'll go less big screen and actually show you this. So yes, in the Doctor Who Monthly, Russell Davies said the decision to commission season 3 won't be made until season 2 has transmitted. So we've got another year. And that's always been the deal. So you lot, hey, we might even have a day off. Although maybe not with the whole of the legend. Sorry, I keep saying the legend. It's the Sea Devils spin-off. They've got an acronym for it.
yeah.
So the great work goes on. I always think every episode of Doctor Who is someone's first episode. Imaginations will be sparking across the world as these 14 episodes, blah, blah, and I stop immediately. So basically, didn't you know, everybody, that why are we asking about season 3? It was never going to be commissioned till after season 2. Hello, that's the deal.
Yeah. It's strange, isn't it? Because obviously, we've heard some of these rumors coming along, and but as you say, it's still far in the future because season 2 has been done, filmed, but not shown. So it's a bit strange that we're hearing potentially these ideas of a season 3 at this early stage.
I've read so many different things about this. Jeremy, I know we did a show that got about 4K in the end where you said you're walking away from this. But do you, come on, you're a Doctor Who fan. Do you keep looking the other way and get your Doctor Who monthly and go, oh, come on, season 3, bring me back, bring me back?
I don't know whether season 3 is going to be made. But and as for season 4, I doubt it very much. I think the BBC will lose patience with it and just not commission it. But you never know. I may be wrong.
What about you, Gary?
Well, first of all, I think we should, looking at this, the text that you put up. First of all, I think we need to say a prayer for anybody whose first episode of Doctor Who was Space Babies. Because I don't know where you go from there. But I remember back when, in the early days of this new era, where RTD was trumpeting the fact, no more breaks in transmission, no more dead years. We're on track to do, to have Doctor Who every year. I don't see how that if they wait until after season 2 is transmitted to even make the decision to commission season 3, considering that for these first 2 seasons, it's been 10 months of filming and 8 months of post-production. So if they wait until season 2 is transmitted, you're looking at 18 months minimum.
Long time away.
Before season 3. So it's like, well, there goes his commitment to, and who knows? Maybe he's just saying that to kind of put off, all the
there's been
the rumors about why they haven't, announced season 3 yet. Who knows?
I mean, Daryl, have you got an opinion on this and what your thoughts are? Season 3, have you heard anything? Have you guessed anything?
No, I've followed most of the people who are sort of doing critical analysis of it more than the episodes, really. So I don't really have an opinion on it one way or the other, really. I don't really. I suspect season 3 will happen, but like you said, I don't know whether it go to season 4.
It's a funny one, isn't it? Because we've had season 1, the Sea Devils thing's been done. He says he's got another secret project as well. I'll ask you all about what you think that could be. Some people say, "Oh, is that going to be a Rogue spin-off?" I'd rather a Susan spin-off, but don't Regenerator, please. Look, after season 1, season 2 almost in the bag. RTD has said he's writing season 3. We wondered whether he was being a bit previous, but I suppose there is method in the madness, isn't there? Keep writing as the BBC and Bad Wolf season 3, get everything all sorted out. Disney either comes in on season 3 and continues or not, and if not, they continue as a separate band, the BBC, just doing it their own way. But they've got it all set up. I suppose in a way that maybe they've learned from the Shooty Gat while waiting for him to come out of 6 Education and having to wait and having 2 Doctor Who light episodes. Are they thinking, no, let's get everything in the bag? If Disney decides to walk away, we've got the scripts ready. We can look for another streamer or we can do it ourselves.
Well, wait a minute, Brenda. I would think, and please tell me I'm wrong. I would think that how much money you have to work with. And I know we're talking about Doctor Who. I'm not talking about classic. I'm talking about the money they've had for New Who, and especially with Disney money. I would think that the kind of stories you write depend on how much money you have available, in the sense that you're going to write one story if you have the bottomless Disney money pit available to you. Or if that's taken away, you'll kind of downsize your stories to contained, compact type of stories. You know what I mean? If you're writing like a mega budget story, your funding shifts downward. I don't see how that couldn't affect. You're going to need to alter the story, or am I just not looking at this
right? I don't know, Michael. What are your tea leaves saying about this?
Well, I mean, I'll say quickly because my internet's always playing up. I mean, one thing I just read somewhere, I think it was, Paul Richards says that Gatwa was miscast. We were talking on our channel about the fact that Ncuti Gatwa as an actor is basically given what is given by the writers. What about if Gatwa had been actually written as a doctor who was a lot more serious, a lot more defined, rather than sort of like jumping and screaming and acting the way he does? It makes me wonder whether, Ncuti could have been actually sort of portrayed his doctor in a way which was more accessible to the fans. Is that something? Do you think that it's a combination of, or do you think it was that he was? Do you think he was miscast, or how do you feel about this? Because obviously, if he's back for another season, we don't particularly want it. At least a lot of people I know. So it makes you wonder whether, it's the situation that it's a combination of bad writing, or I don't know. It's hard to sort of explain how we should proceed from here, because it's all a bit, hard to define.
I just on Netflix started watching Sex Education Series 4, which is the series that actually delayed Doctor Who getting going, really. And I'd enjoyed Sex Education Series 1 to 3, including Ncuti in it.
Right.
And I then found that Series 4 seems much more comedic. They've shifted their emphasis there. He's more of a comedian in it. Right. And I just started to think he's in Sex Education now in Series 4, Ncuti Gatwa seems to be the Doctor, but with glitter eyelids and everything. It just seems to be just a little bit, it's the same type of persona. And I don't know whether the series script writers in Sex Education have adapted because he became Doctor Who during series.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yes. I don't know if they've adapted to him.
Right.
Or he's... I try not to go down the miscast idea road yet, because my guns are blazing for the showrunner, which is, listen, good finale, good series structure.
Yeah.
Don't retcon Sutek and stuff like that unless you've thought it through very cleverly.
Which obviously he didn't do.
Yeah, that's where my guns are aiming at the moment, Jeremy.
I agree. I'm not sure whether he was miscast. I think he was just cast because the BBC wanted to cast him, and so did Russell T Davies. But the trouble is, he's falling into particular types, and that sort of restraining the scripts that Russell T Davies is writing. But I think he's just writing queer as folk. That's basically what he's writing.
Yeah, we need a showrunner that doesn't the joke. I mean, we were doing Horror Fan Rock on Wednesday night, and I thought, you know what, the story was taken seriously by the producer and the team. People argued about whether Tom Baker was too dark, but I quite liked it.
No, I think he was all right. Yeah.
But he was taking it seriously.
Sure. Oh, yeah. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Tom Baker's character, he would take it seriously, so you have more respect for the character, and it would actually enhance the story more. At least it would for me. But when you got the current Doctor running and jumping over roofs and singing gremlins and stuff like that in the Christmas, it's like, what the hell am I watching?
And breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah, exactly. It's too much. It's too much.
If you don't have the actor and the character taking it seriously, no way that the viewers will take it seriously.
But I mean, also Russell T Davies writes characters that are very much cul-de-sac. Like Mrs. Flood, and the characters that lead nowhere, but he hypes them up and saying, "What's the mystery behind this character?" There is no mystery behind the character. I can see that straight away.
Well, the mystery is he hasn't written the ending, because we know that from the writer's tale that he would write it later. Right. But so Series 3, RTD says don't worry about. Obviously in SFX magazine earlier this year, all those streamers know, because we're all over this like a shot, like I was on Saloon. He said Well, the whole thing about whether they get Series 3 commissioned by Disney, it's an industry decision. It's like any business, these things take time. Sure. I think the decision will come after season 2 transmission. That's what we're expecting. So he has been consistent. You could argue on that. But then, as you know, when I used to do my slides on what he said in other places, he said, I'm working on the 4th script now for season 3. It's not commissioned. That's still up in the air. But that's the same for every TV program. I shouldn't say we're confident because that's asking for a fall, but we're very confident, to be honest, and we're just going to keep going. I can't stop. That's my problem. I detect there was a bit of consistency there. You're going to have to wait till the end of season 2, except this doesn't, I think, link with that. This seems to say it might happen anytime. It happens to every TV program.
I think it's interesting that when Shooty was on the recent interview, was it with Graham Norton, and he let slip that season 3 he's back next year to film it, and then apparently after it was a live transmission, it was cut out.
Yeah, well,
now that was interesting, because why would the BBC cut that out? Why would they? Is that because they're frightened of saying that they're committed to season 3? Sorry to go slightly off topic from what you just said.
No, I don't. It's all right, Michael. That's my second item. So for
those,
they dovetail. So I'm not saying that. I'm just saying to people, I'll go more on Shooty and what he actually said in that chat show.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
Go on.
So, is it to put pressure on Disney to come up with the money and to make up their minds? That's not a decision.
Possibly. It's interesting, isn't it?
I mean, I just think that the BBC wants to wait to make whatever announcement they're going to make an official announcement. They don't want to have it be an offhand comment on a talk show.
Yeah, I agree. And certainly not Shooty is not going to do the announcement. It's going to be RTD and Bad Wolf. It's going to be...
I was just going to say, wouldn't Russell T Davies tell Gatwa what to say and what not to say on the show beforehand? I'm surprised I'm surprised he actually wasn't on the show with Nikuti Gatwa to make sure that
he's like his bodyguard, isn't he? He's kind of like I know exactly what you mean.
The two are very much
except
linked in that sense.
In a way, Jeremy, you think he's just rehearsing the importance of being earnest. Okay, the showrunner keeps an eye on him because obviously they're doing scripts and that, but you get the idea that maybe he's just gone on there to actually really talk about the importance of being earnest. While he's on there, Graham Norton says, "Oh, Doctor Who went well," or give us some talk about Doctor Who. And he just basically said a little bit more because he knows more than we do. I mean, there's that possibility. And then, of course, everyone goes, whoa, hold on a minute. We do announcements on the BBC. This is not how we do it. That's what I'm thinking. Now, the thread is on fire. So I will just throw it into the spanner here. While we were talking about season 3 and all that talk, what about this then? Game Rant said there was a rumor that Disney is to cancel Doctor Who after 2 seasons due to underwhelming viewership. Actually, when you look at the article, there isn't much there. It just says Disney spent a fair bit of money. There's rumors, there's ratings. I mean, just watch All My Saloons, add them all together. And
I mean, it's stuff we all know about, isn't it? We're aware of that. Yeah.
But I must admit, you were saying, whether they're just going to kind of... my argument was that Disney's going to make the BBC sweat, but there is an idea that you're saying, which is they're trying to kind of make Disney blink first.
I like that idea. Actually, that makes sense. They're kind of like the uncertainty from both perspectives of the BBC and Disney, and it's kind of like a war. It's kind of like a sort of mind games kind of thing. Like, what are they doing? And you know what I mean?
I mean, I have to think that they're waiting to see what the ratings for season 2 are. I mean, they can't operate with no regard for the ratings.
Sure.
They're going to have to wait and see if are the ratings for season 2, are they going to start where season 1 left off and go lower? Have people basically already decided, all the people who said, well, I'll give it 1 year and then I'll decide.
Yeah.
Are they gone or are they going to come back? But it seems to me like any television show doesn't operate in a vacuum outside of what the ratings are. So I think maybe they're just waiting to see.
Well, Michael Nemo's predicting here Disney reduces the budget and there is a season 3. Michael, there's a variation on that, which is while they're making the BBC sweat, possibly, that they actually they could actually reduce the budget and get more editorial control at the same time. I mean, I think that is a possibility. Whereas maybe the BBC under RTD writing scripts for season 3 as if they don't care and they're confident, are just shooting ahead to say, we're going to make this without you, Disney. So you either join us or you don't.
I could see that. I could see Russell T Davies think, "Oh, stuff it. If Disney aren't going to be involved, I'll be able to get funds from somewhere. I'm just going to keep writing." I can see that
crowdfund it.
Yeah, I can see that. You never know. You never know.
Is there any information on when it's season 2 is supposed to air yet?
They thought, Daryl, that it would be earlier than this year. So this year was around Eurovision it started, which was May, wasn't it? And there was talk that it might start in March, but I think
it's been put back, isn't it now?
Yeah, I think they're now pushing it back again, aren't
because of the gap. Because obviously they're not filmed the next season yet, so they will have to film. What I reckon, obviously I don't know for sure. I reckon they'll show season 2 in autumn next.
There's also the what you call it, the Sea Devils spin-off to fill a month.
Well, that's going to be filming until December.
Yeah. And we've got some material on that. Anyway, since Michael, you mentioned Shooty, we might as well throw him in, and then I'll come to the thread, everybody. I know you're on fire, and I'm trying my bestest after, a holiday to keep up with you. But basically, yes, season 3 filming. Well, Shooty did actually, he must have said it in the Graham Norton show because it was reported. And you saw it everywhere. Basically, whether it was the Radio Times, TV Zone, Doctor Who star Shooty Gatwa says that season 16, season 3, is being filmed next year. And obviously the evidence was actual on the Graham Norton show. And he said everything. I mean, if you look at the top bit there, he says, it's all going well. We did the 2nd series this year. The Christmas special's coming up, and we are filming a 3rd series next year. Now, if I just show you now, so there we go, hugging it out.
Oh, boy.
Saying hello to Graham Norton, and there's him with Miranda Hart and some Hollywood actresses. He didn't actually say that much. I think he was quite overawed, actually.
Was he going clubbing right after the taping of the show? Is that why he was wearing what he's wearing?
Well, he had been a go-go dancer in the Polo Lounge in Glasgow, he said as well, when he was funding his drama course. So maybe he's going back to that same Polo Lounge. I don't know. But everybody then picked up, as Michael said, that the statement was cut from the final broadcast. And actually, here you go. Originally, Shooty Gatwa said, it's all going well. 2nd series, Christmas special, 3rd series next year. The version we eventually saw was, it's all going well, finished 2nd season, Christmas special, but it's been amazing. Now, as you say, this could be us trying to find problem in the reads when actually, really, it's just they like to make it, like you said, Gary, a very official announcement.
Yeah.
But
sorry, Brendan. I was going to say I dropped out when you literally asked me a question, Brendan, and I went, "Bunk." What are you going to ask me? Sorry.
I think I was linking with what you'd said, because you'd said Michael that they said he was saying something in the program and then it got cut. And I'm just showing on the screen there that actually you can see where the cut is. It's a bit like a Kamala Harris video, actually, where you can actually see where CBS has kind of doctored a little bit and woven it around. I never knew TV should really do that nowadays with politics, but there you go. Yeah. But you can see that they've done a Kamala Harris on Shooty Gatwa in Graham Norton, it looks like.
Well, it's very interesting that they obviously dropped it. And I'm surprised that they just didn't keep it in, which it makes it curious and curiouser. I mean, it's kind of like, it's the uncertainty. I mean, that's the problem with this sort of environment. You never know quite how it's going to go. And really, I can't wait for the 2nd season to go out and see what the ratings are going to be. Yes. I think they're going to be very similar to this season, perhaps even worse. Yep. And then that's when the actual real interesting stuff is going to happen. Like, are we going to carry on with this? Of course, we've got the Christmas special coming along in a couple of months' time, and that'll be our first indicator of how things. Because I think people and they need to digest and think over a season and think, well, was it really that bad? Yes, I do think it was really that bad, but it's the general audience, isn't it? It's whether it's kind of like, well, you know, it's weird, isn't it?
It's these general. I mean, I'm talking to somebody who might come on who actually overall enjoyed season 1, and I said, "Oh, I'd love to talk to you because I'm trying to work out why." And they just said, "I don't see where I dislike things. The way they looked at season 1 is the bits they found favourite."
Right.
And I'm thinking, oh gosh, but as a Doctor Who fan, I'm going, that fell below the bar, that broke the rules, that was just shoddy. I can't help it. But anyway, obviously there's different schools of thought, Michael, on that one. I'm just gonna
see, that's why Brendan took his trip. He had to go to New York and Canada and all over the world to find the person who likes season
the one
1.
person in the States who liked it. Like, yeah, that was great.
Yeah, and I think he'd taken a substance as well. No. But David Mullen here, good to see you again. If this was successful or even popular, we wouldn't be waiting until season 2 has gone out. I agree with you, David. I always thought that when you were hearing the credits of one of the early episodes of any series, if it was a blockbuster, people have put their money into it, and they normally announce it, don't they? They say, "Well, the season 2 will be made or will be coming sometime next year." They even do it with James Bond. Normally, they normally say it will be back.
Yes.
If season 1 had been very, very successful, hugely successful, Disney would have snapped the hand off.
Quiet. You could hear the cockroaches. It was literally like it was like an awkward. It was like an awkward scene from The Office where David Brent says something and no one like. It's like, what did we just watch for the last 8 weeks?
And I don't want to kind of dwell on the negative, but I will say that for me personally, the whole smoking gun about the probable numbers for season 1 is the fact that they never released the audience appreciation.
Yeah. And that's the change, isn't it? As well, they used to do that, obviously.
So I'm looking at the thread here, and people are very cynical about did Shooter even say it says garbage. Paul Richards says, well, he's not very bright. I have to say, I think there's an element where he got excited. And obviously, I think he did just say, I've made the Christmas special, season 2's in the bag, and next year we're filming again, because he knows that. I mean, it's hard to resist, I suppose. He did need, I think he did need RTV.
Maybe it's an assumption that they're filming. Maybe unless this is the thing, is he assuming that Doctor Who's been going on for so long that, I'll be back next year. Yeah, we're filming. Or was it kind of like he's a bit naive as to the situation?
Well, Michael, he knows his boss is writing the scripts of series 3, so it's not hard to jump into the fact that we're filming.
Good point.
Yeah.
But I have to say, we're all, you know me and my R's and W's, we're all worried about a gap. And I just wonder whether the BBC are actually pushing on and they are going to do series 3 with Disney or not. And they're just waiting for Disney.
I think that. Yeah. I actually think that's a very fair point, that they're going to do it no matter what. And I think possibly that's what he's actually jumping at. He's hoping that they're going to get the actual, obviously, extra cash from Disney. But nevertheless, whatever happens with Disney, they're going to make it. And I think that's possibly what we're actually getting the indication from.
Well, I think Disney should call Brendan and have season 3 just be with the puppets. I think that the ratings would soar.
They would, because it would make no sense. One of my teacher mates the other day, she said, show me the sense for you. Show me the Who pets. And I did the horror of Ron Rock, again, my R's and W's. And she was in hysterics, and she said, I don't know what's happening.
So you're saying that the puppets are going to be better actors? Is that what you're saying?
Well, they're consistent.
Oh, yeah.
No, they're not consistent.
And the stories would make more sense.
They did have an episode on Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea which had puppets in.
And
remember rightly. And it was quite good with Vincent Price in it.
So the thread, we are very cynical here, and we're going to move on. But if the ratings go down, says Divine and Dragon, hello, negotiating for a different showrunner or shorter run of stories is possible. Yeah. Disney are all over this. They make notes, don't they? Disney is playing a war of attrition, says Babette. They are waiting for the beep to go belly up. Disney will feast on all. Yeah, you see that there's different schools of thought on this, aren't there? Who is the one playing poker best?
There you go. Heather in the chat wants a puppet series 3, Brendan. So there you go.
We are making Tales of the TARDIS, remember, which is behind the scenes at Bad Wolf headquarters. We've got it already. Michael Nemo, I'm surprised they still want Shooty as an ambassador. Michael, what's he done? I mean, he's following the script. He's following what they're saying. I can't really say too much about Shooty yet. I'm still gunning for the showrunner. He decides this. Paul Richards, I've been watching The Mind of Evil, and it's light years better than Disney Who.
Yeah.
The Doctor isn't a flirty, superficial annoyance, but a stoic, authoritative figure.
One of my favorite Pertwees. I love that story.
It is quite dark, actually, really, when you think about it.
It belonged in season 7. It was that dark.
Yes. Oh, I know. I got a shock when I first saw that, actually. Okay, bit more news here, everybody. What about this one? Paul McGann in the Doctor Who magazine again. I tell you what, for once, somebody said earlier in the thread that this month's Doctor Who magazine has a bit more in it. Doctor Who's Paul McGann blames David Tennant for all the snogging, says Doctor Who can't be a love interest.
Yep.
Now, he does go into a bit of detail here, so, I'll just show you for those who haven't got Doctor Who magazine. Our time with Paul in India is drawing to a close. Barnaby is keen to get them back to rehearsals, but just before they go, we talk about kissing. The 8th Doctor might have enjoyed a brief snog with Grace Holloway, but it was with Charlie Pollard that there were hints of a proper romance. And this was long before Rose Tyler or River. Well, everyone always mentions this, but I never took it that way, says India. People got upset during one of the Big Finish episodes. We were meant to kiss in that one, but actually we melded into one and everybody got very upset. But now, of course, the Doctor is snogging all over the shop.
Yeah.
And this continues just a bit more. Just show you this bit. That's because of David Tennant, says Paul, the David Cassidy of doctors. But for me, Charlie's love of the Doctor is complicated. He is her everything. She's 18 when she's stored away, so the Doctor is her family and her love interest. Yep, it's a complicated feeling that she has for the Doctor. However, the Paul McGann says, with Charlie, it's got to be platonic. And India says, it is, yes, that's what I'm saying. And then they say the Doctor cannot be a love interest. It's impossible. And as India says, the Doctor needs to be asexual. There's no sex in the TARDIS. They've seen one of my early episodes. I think that's the rule you don't break, says Paul McGann. I think if that happens. So, whoa. I mean, and I know everybody's going to say, what about the kiss in the movie? What about that? And
that was not a romantic kiss.
Post-regeneration confusion.
Yeah, well, his first one, Michael, was exuberance. It was
like yes, it was.
But it says in Doctor Who magazine he's got a secret project, and so many Doctor Who fans seem to be willing RTD to do a Rogue special.
Oh God. No.
I'm curious, Daryl, do you think that the kiss in the TV movie was romantic?
Long time since I've seen it, but I just remember it as being sort of exuberance.
It was excitement. It was just. It wasn't like a sexual thing or. I mean, the Doctor, from my perspective, should be an asexual being. I know that New Who's had it, but I don't think romance with the Doctor, given that he's an alien that lives for thousands and thousands of years, I just don't think it works. If people like that, that's fair enough. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah, well, look at the convoluted thing you've got with Tennant's Doctor and Rose. You've got to bring back a clone of the Doctor in order to finish that story off, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
And the one thing I think that the one distinction I think it's important to draw about the kiss in the TV movie, there's a big difference between the way the Doctor intended it and the way that Grace took it. Everybody points. Points to Grace's reaction of, "Oh, let's do it again," as evidence that that's the way the Doctor meant it. No, they're two different things.
Yeah,
misinterpretation is what you're saying.
The snag, and so we can't blame the Paul McGann movie for starting the rot, because actually it's a way of, yes, visually you could say you saw the Doctor do something. The issue really was Rose, but even worse was under Stephen Moffat, because I actually, as you can see, River Song all over it.
Yeah.
And it's all gone the wrong way. When I think of Daryl Joyce doing your illustrations from all those 60 years in your illustrator journey, and I wonder, you're not trying to evoke romantic, are you? You're not trying to evoke a love story. You're trying to evoke adventure. You're trying to evoke,
it's an adventure series first and foremost, and I've never really thought that romance was part of it.
No, it's friendship with his companions. He really cares for his companions, but that's as far as it goes. It's a natural enjoyment of their company, but not romance.
Yeah,
that's not what it's about.
I mean, Daryl, when you went over all the stories, when you actually illustrated them, when you forced yourself to go back over, was there any story where you thought that could be read a second way? It could be read more romantically if people so forced it?
I only did 50 illustrations from Yoo-Hoo, and I chose the images that sort of conveyed, a more otherworldly sort of nature. So I didn't ever look at the romance for anything I did in that.
Because as you know, the one on the top there that not everyone, I've got to stop using language like that, don't I? That certain people will say the first Doctor had a romantic liaison in the Aztecs. And you think, I mean, you were reviewing that recently, weren't you, Gary? I mean, did you see the romance there?
Well, clearly, no, there was no romance. I think that the actors and the characters had such good
chemistry
that I think, again, you kind of read into it. But the fact that when she tells him that they're now engaged and he's shocked, I think that kind of is clear then that wasn't his intention. But it's just, I don't know. I think that I don't know. It seems like in every movie, TV show, you can't have like any kind of just a basic, like charming connection with somebody without people trying to turn it into something sexual or romantic or something like that. Yeah. It's like, no, it's just two people connecting.
Yeah.
And the romancing was on her part, not on his part.
Yeah.
Well, it's light relief in that story, isn't it? Really, it's sort of done for the comedy. It's not overplayed, but it is done for the light relief in that story. It's quite heavy, some of that story.
And it's very poignant at the end of that story where, he insists that all the companions leave everything behind, in the tomb, but yet he turns around and takes that one remembrance from Kamika to show that really did mean something to him. That's exactly the way it should be played.
It's trying to humanize the Doctor, and that's always been the issue. It's humanizing the Doctor. And if you're going to put an 18 or 19-year-old girl in the TARDIS next to him, then you've got a safeguarding context that's a problem. And I'd rather we just didn't go there and stop bogging down. Don't bog the Doctor down in 21st century gender politics. Let the Doctor fly and just leave that behind. I mean, I thought, okay, RTD in season 1 and 2, when he did it, have a context to Rose Tyler, have his mum and her mum and all the rest of it. Yeah, that's interesting. But she always gets in the TARDIS and flies off. But don't get me bogged down in all the domestic politics of a family. And he's done that more. And I think the concern with Rogue is this is the most sexual you have seen the Doctor ever. Yeah. And he's written season 2. And of course, some fans are yearning for it when some fans are saying, don't you dare. It's another piece of Marmite.
It's strange because I thought that the relationship with Yaz and the 13th Doctor, I actually kind of liked that she developed feelings for the Doctor, but the Doctor didn't reciprocate. She kind of just said, look, I could be your friend, but that's as far as it goes. I was happy. I was fine with that. I thought that really worked. And I'm not going to go about Rogue again. I mean, I made it quite clear. I just think it was just the most uncharacteristic episode of Doctor Who I've ever seen in 60 years. Yeah. It just wasn't what Doctor Who was about. There's nothing about the gay relationship. It could have been the same as a heterosexual relationship. It just didn't work. It was just a character who's the Doctor was after a human for a sexual
predatory.
And it just didn't work. It wasn't the Doctor. That was when I thought really they lost the plot with Doctor Who, and I've not really fully recovered from that episode. Quite frankly, it was that bad.
Well, the writers and producers keep going down the same road. They've done it.
Yeah. But this was a whole new level. This was like this was not anything I've ever seen before in Doctor Who. The other things have been very slowly, gradually happening over multi-seasons, but this episode where he meets this stranger and he just like it was terrible. It was just
I mean, the show ideally, and I don't think I'm too mired in the classic series, although that will always have my highest love, is that the show should be about the adventures that the Doctor and his companions go on, the journey, as the title of Daryl's book. It shouldn't be about the Doctor himself. It should be about, that's the one fundamental mystery that should always remain at the heart of the show. It shouldn't be about peeling the onion and finding out more about the Doctor. It should just be taking us on the journeys that he goes
with
on.
this character that you're not that familiar with. You just know some aspects of him. Yes.
I remember part of the whole idea. I mean, I know we found it corny sometimes in the 70s when, at the end of Curse of Peladon, there was the joke, Doctor Who. But of course, it is called Doctor Who. And the bottom line is, I know it's not a question mark, but can we just bring the mystery back and not have him so easy to read? I mean, that moment in the Matt Smith episode when he's underneath some woman's dress, you think, Stephen Moffat, you've really pushed this to the point where it's not even romantic.
Carry on, Doctor, isn't it?
Yeah, it's turning into more sexual slapstick. And you're taking the Doctor into kind of a sleazy area if it's read the wrong way because it's for kids. Babette, all this romanticizing of the Doctor-companion relationship contributes to the casting of actors who are sexy rather than character actors and eccentrics. That's an interesting point. If you think about that, we were just talking about Shooty, go-go dancer extraordinaire. Welcome to everybody. We've had loads of people joining us there. Before we move on, isn't it funny? I can imagine Paul McGann with his scouse kind of cheek taking the mick out of David Tennant being the Casanova or the David Cassidy of Doctors. But he sounds quite clear, I mean, where he stands on it. And it's very rare at the moment to hear a Doctor Who actor speak up on any of this. I mean, it's all gone quiet, hasn't it? Nobody's saying anything.
So why would they be going quiet? Are they worried about saying something which might come against them for their perspectives? Or
I think it's a dangerous
dodgy ground these days, isn't it?
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah. Gender politics, for some reason, is seen as dangerous to your career, which is a shame because people should be allowed to be honest. And thank God Paul McGann, like Peter Davison, has been honest in the past. Boris was
I just want to say that I had not seen those quotes from Paul McGann and India Fisher before you put them up, Brendan. If I was physically capable, I would have done a backflip, when I heard those quotes, because I couldn't agree. There is absolutely no way that I could agree more with everything they said in that article.
Yeah.
This is the absolute truth. And I wish that bravo.
Can I just say,
McGann and India Fisher for saying that.
I was just going to say the same. I think Paul McGann was so good. He was so wasted. They could have brought him back for something else. And he really, just by these comments, he really gets the Doctor. And he's been so wasted in live action. And I think that's one of the biggest regrets of Doctor Who, even after the kiss. I know we had a kiss in the TV movie, but we've already talked about that. He was a great Doctor. And
very like Capaldi, actually. And so, if people have just joined us late, if you look at that right-hand column from Doctor Who magazine, no sex in the TARDIS. I think that's the rule you do not break. Now, there's Paul McGann really speaking quite directly and honestly. And I don't hear anybody else saying that at the moment because RTD, if you think about it, and Stephen Moffat and Chris Chibnall have all gone down a very different path.
I don't see how anybody with a full knowledge of the show could rebut anything that they said.
Yeah. Fascinating. And will he join us again on Doctor Who after saying stuff like that? So, fascinating. And we will continue with our discussion of Doctor Who and what's in the news. But this is kind of more Who in the media. So let me just do a little jingle to liven you up. Why not? Okay. So, I mentioned this very quickly on Wednesday. I know Type 40 did because it's just come out as an online exclusive. I just want to get everybody's opinion and move on. Yes, Doctor Who, the online merchandise. I know I'm looking in the shops for the Davros, etc. However, for £39.99, Gary, I hope you've ordered it. There you go.
Is that what they're going to pay me to take it?
I mean, what do you think?
I will say now. Now the 15th Doctor. Okay, now my eye is gravitated to the little. I guess this is the figure from Boom, right? Because he's standing on the platform.
Yes.
And my first thought was, does this come with like a remote control that actually like detonates that? Because if it does, I might buy it.
It's so strange to do that, isn't it? That suddenly you've got a way of killing off that Doctor.
My order's in. My order is in.
Yeah. Why think of Boom? He's also got that very strange sexual device that he calls a sonic screwdriver as well.
Yes, the yeah,
and the psychic paper. Now, just while we're on Shooty's Doctor in that garb, because that looks as though that's the go-to. Daryl, as an illustrator, having seen, at season 1, which do you prefer as the image or silhouette of the Doctor?
Yeah, I suppose I go for that one. It's a little bit, it's got a sort of 1970s vibe to it, so I quite like that.
Yeah.
I didn't really go for. I can't remember what else he wore. I mean, in the Sutek one, he was just in a leather jacket and a white t-shirt, wasn't he? And I didn't really like the Devil's Cord. I didn't really understand how his hairstyle changes. So, what's going on there?
This outfit looks like the one that Lenny Henry wore in that spoof skit.
Oh, the 80s one. Yeah. That was funny. That was.
That looks exactly. I mean, if we had a picture of him, this looks exactly like that.
Yeah, I remember the one. Yeah, well, he was with Perry, wasn't he? And yeah.
And look, you've got accessories, a mobile phone, and a handbag. It's it's all happening. It's that's what I want. It's that one.
Not out yet, though.
Yeah. Well, some people are grabbing them, Jeremy, already. I've seen the swines. So, who's getting this then in the thread? I mean, we were so fast the other night. I don't know if I picked up on it, but Anthony Parkinson's noticed he hasn't got any genitals. But that's
does that go back to the asexual thing? Is it?
I think that it's the new gender politics. I think this is how
you get those with the limited edition one.
It looks like he's wearing a nappy, a blue nappy at the.
Very nice, yes, very good.
It's like a cod piece, but the thing is, it doesn't matter because he's going to blow up in a minute after standing on that thing. So.
That's right.
Yeah. So I'm not. Do you know? I've had about how many panelists on? I've had you lot all tonight, and then the Wednesday crowd. Nobody really is into this. Nope.
No.
Wait, so is that
I'm not buying one. I'm not buying one. I'll tell you that.
Is it $39.99 for both or $39 for each?
For both. Yeah.
For both. Okay.
Yeah. They're not going to get my money from that. I'm telling you that right now.
No.
Yeah. No. So there you go. That's. I can see you're all excited by that one. So, what else have we got in the Whoniverse before we have our big monster debate and really go for it? So, what about this then? Russell Tovey having a nice holiday in Mallorca after finishing filming. It sounds like the two Doctors this when they finished early. So basically, there's been some Instagram shots. There's Russell Tovey showing you. What a lovely Friday they've had over there as they're making the war. Sorry, I've gone the wrong way there. And there we've got another actor, Colin.
He was in the Far Show. That actor, I know that actor.
Yeah,
he's the isn't he the unit colonel or something?
Yeah, he's gonna. I've got the list there, but basically they're having a great time. They've all done lots of recordings in Swansea and Cardiff, they said, and they've also done Mallorca now. So there we go. Now there's some of the cast decisions. They added some on the Doctor magazine.
Okay.
Now I know Patrick Ballardi. He was in The Office, wasn't he? He was.
Oh, you're joking?
Yes, he was.
It's Neil, wasn't it? It's the boss that. Oh God, that's cool. I wonder what happened to him. I've not seen it for years. Oh, that'd be good. Oh, yes, great, isn't it?
Yeah, he was.
I'm a big Office fan, as you could probably tell. That's why I reacted like that.
Vincent Franklin, I know, was it Cucumber that RTD made, and he was basically playing an RTD type character in that. Right. The two women are more newcomers. They've been in various things. That Mae Mack she acted in the coronation party with Shooty. They did a Romeo and Juliet scene, and she played Juliet. So Being an English teacher, I found that a bit kind of, but
they haven't announced like who's playing humans and who's playing sea devils, right?
No, they haven't done that. So we've got the usual unit crowd; they're all in it. There you go.
Yeah,
that's all very confirmed. Of course, we're all worried about whether Kate Stewart's going to continue that hand holding with the Colonel Ibrahim, because that was shown at the end of Empire of Death. More romance.
All I want from this miniseries is that for Morris Gibbons, the Segway kid, to be chasing the sea devils on the beach, and then he pushes a button, and then the Segway turns into some kind of like water ski or something, and he's able to kind of jet out and chase it. If that happens, that'll be
the highlight of the show, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I don't think he's even in it, actually. Neil Gorton, obviously, we've got Millennium FX, and we do, come on, can we get the Sea Devils back? And this is partly what we're going to be discussing with the panel in a moment. And I know a lot of panelists have said their go-tos on whether you can retcon respectfully a monster, whether you can revive or evolve them, or whether you have to go back to the originals. And the Sea Devils is one of my biggest gripes. You've wrecked the Sea Devils. The only time they've been acceptable is in 1972, but since then they have wrecked them. And to make them substandard to the Silurians, I hate. But yes, there's a taster for what's to come in a moment, everybody. But let's just finish this one off. My last headline, folks, was they did it again. They went back to the BFI and did Happiness Patrol 2. And this time, they got a few behind-the-scenes people. We had Rachel Bell, who was in it, of course. Obviously, Sylvester was there again. Andrew Cartmel was there. The writer was there. We had another crowd. I mean, do any of you have any inkling, interest, temptation to go to some of these events at the BFI? Or is it just...
I would if I could.
Yeah, maybe. It depends on the story, I suppose. I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan of the Happiness Patrol. But it's certainly interesting to see that these people are getting... It's nice that long-term fans will see the actors, people associated with the episode. So possibly, I might go and see some of them.
I'm counting the days until, I think, 2 weeks now, until the season 25 comes out.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm counting the days.
Can I just say, before we move on, I'm going to say something that'll really get the thread and you lot going. The more I think about the Andrew Cartmel master plan, the more I'm glad they didn't get it going too much.
Yeah.
I know everybody's fascinated by it, and it was intended to make Doctor Who darker. I applaud that, and more mysterious, but not the Hand of Omega and getting this and getting that. And to be honest, the season that's just about to come out on Blu-ray, when you had Remembrance of the Daleks, when, of course, he'd conveniently just left something there for later on. Then with Silver Nemesis, there was a similar thing going on. And I thought, and in Curse of Fenric, I need to complete the chess game. I started to think, he's got a lot of unfinished business, and it's just untidy, and it's just...
messy, disorganized.
Yeah, I hate kind of making this web that wasn't there.
But here's the thing. I think that at the base level, I think what Cartmel did succeed in is introducing an element of mystery back into the character. And that's all you need. You just need a little bit of undefined mystery. You don't need to say, I'm more than a Time Lord, and then explain what that means. Just put it out there and leave it. It's fine, because that could mean anything. That could just be the Doctor boasting or doing whatever. But I think it was successful in reintroducing a little bit of the mystery. As far as and I know this is the wrong season, but as far as the Fenric thing, where I think the whole idea of recasting the kind of the season 24 kind of goofy Doctor into this character where he's like the kind of chess master playing on a dozen different levels.
Yeah,
I thought that was great.
Worked a lot better. Yeah.
It's interesting when you read the Andrew Cartmel book and you think, I'm not one of those fans who says carry it through. Yes, I agree, we needed to shift from where we were standing before Andrew Cartmel came over, but I just find anybody now on a long running series seems to want to put their mitts and massive fingerprints on it and turn this juggernaut into a different direction, when actually I just want somebody to get behind the steering wheel and just drive it.
That's right. That's how it should be.
And so we've got a few people. Hello, Randy. Cartmel has said he didn't really have a master plan. It's something that's been blown up by fans. Well, that's maybe true, but there's enough in the book. Hazard Scott, it's like a D&D adventure. Go to place X, retrieve object Y, go to destination Z. I love Remembrance of the Daleks, and we reviewed it a month or so back, but I could do with that element without it, that Omega element. I didn't think it needed it, and I certainly don't think you should have committed genocide on Skaro. Them poor Thals. You know, that.
Well, that was supposed to be. He destroyed like the future Skaro after the Thals had left, I think is the chronology.
Okay, then I'll allow that one. So, if you've been hanging around, which you have, we're going to be talking about the big monster debate now. So get ready, because I don't know what Daryl, Gary, Jeremy, or Michael are going to say now. I don't know what the thread's going to say, but I tell you what. Which monster do you want to bring back? Which monster do you think has been wrecked? Which monsters do you think should be revived in a darker way? And some of Daryl's work we'll have a look at and see how he's tinkered with some of the presentations and why he thought like that. So here we go with the big monster debate on Doctor Who. Yep. So, Daryl, I will start you off. You've been waiting patiently there. And your illustrations on X, where I'm following you, for example, if I just show this to everybody, you've been doing polls, haven't you, at the moment? And I think the Zygon one was today, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was the Zygon, did it win the poll, basically, on what to bring back?
Yeah. I put up as won a poll. So I just look back through or try to remember some of the old monsters, and some of them largely forgotten, and I just put on the forgotten ones ever win. So, but as it gets, as the pool of monsters gets smaller, some of them will come through. Some I've already done, but they never get voted on. So I've done the Shriven Zal from Reboss Operation, but nobody's voted for that. So I'll have to wait.
Everybody vote for that one. So regarding this one, as an example, we've got lots of your examples here, but I'm not going to drive the debate through this, but it's a nice starting point with you, Daryl. You mentioned the Silurians when you were texting me. If I just go big screen. So this was your manifestation of the Silurians, which I have to say, if I just say, is a very different version of what we've seen before, if you get my gist. The original is there. There's your Warriors of the Deep. And then, as you know, we've gone very humanoid since. What was your thinking behind this one?
Well, I always thought there was something slightly pig-like about the original Silurian, and so I just thought I'll take the original Silurian and just imagine what it would be like if you not remade the story, but said, let's do the Silurians as they originally were, but with modern, latex is better quality these days and that sort of thing. But I don't think sculpturing is better, because honestly, I think with new Silurians, you've basically got reptilian human, and if the best reptilian human in Doctor Who is the Draconian, surely, isn't it? I mean, that still looks good.
Yep.
Whereas the new Silurians, to me, is particularly the male one, the one that's in the Christmas special coming up, doesn't look very good at all.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do reptilian humans, surely the Draconian is the best. And they also have got a good structure. They've got an empire, haven't they? And you don't know whether they're good guys or bad guys. You could do a really good story with Draconians.
Yeah. It introduces a Star Trek aspect to Doctor Who, where you've got a whole empire, universe, the Romulans type thing. And Frontier in Space I loved, and I thought that was a great aspect, and it was never followed up again. Curse of Peladon, you have Galaxy 5, never really followed up again. And you think, you've got all these structures there. If some proper showrunner says, right, we're going to have Galaxy 5, we're going to have so and so. You know, we're going to build a whole world that Doctor Who operates within. But I think they like that flexibility of not doing that, don't they, really? So I was interested, Daryl, in this point you made about the humanoid element, that you preferred really what they were doing with the Draconians, if you're going to go humanoid, to obviously the way they'd really, I think, wrecked the Silurians. By the way, these are some of the rare footage I promised everybody as we go through this.
I wanted to ask a question, if I could, to Daryl. If you go back to his Silurian picture, I just had a quick question about his process that I've always been fascinated on. Because if you look at this, it seems to me, I'm wondering, Daryl, when you're thinking about kind of not so much reimagining, but kind of re-envisioning your versions here, because it seems to me like, you know, it's clearly identifiable as a Silurian. I mean, you have the ears, you have the oval mouth, you have the third eye, and I'm wondering, when you look at the original, do you identify, and even the shape of the face is similar, do you identify like key features of like that you know that you have to keep from the original, and then kind of reshape whatever else?
Yeah,
because
I think
it seems like you always do keep all the key aspects of the original. Yeah,
I keep everything that sort of, to me, says a Silurian. So the sort of piggy little eyes that they've got, I kept that initially, and then obviously it's got the third eye and the mouth. I mean, I did put teeth in the mouth, which, you know, I did try a version without, and it's just with that sort of circular mouth that you don't even know, is it a mouth or is it the nose? I don't really know, but at least try and keep the sort of the structure of the face similar, and just try not to lose the essence of the creature, which I think in the second one, I think that's a really good sculpt on Warriors of the Deep, but it just doesn't quite work for me. It just, the mouth is too comical, I think.
Yeah.
And I think the eyes are quite interesting. It's got sort of some of the angles on it just don't make it look menacing.
Right.
And the new series one just, it looks like something completely different. I don't know.
And Daryl, we're dreading the Christmas one because they've made the Silurian humanoid into some sort of waiter or butler or something. And yes, I know it's for comedy, but the point is the Silurians were this great ancient species, and why diminish them and humanize them? I thought that, you know, we wanted a greater point than colonizing everybody. But Daryl, can I just ask you, just for the sake of this one, you're going very well down in the thread. People are loving the eyes. People are loving the design. Michael Nemo said, for example, these drawings are better than the last 4 seasons of Doctor Who. There you go. RTD, he's here. Get him. He's doing some brilliant drawings, which I'm really enjoying. But when you have that Silurian, is your thinking, Daryl, that you'd like Doctor Who to go a bit darker, a bit more serious, a bit more threatening?
Just like recently, because didn't he mention, RTD mentioned that they were going for the audience that was Stranger Things or something like that?
Yeah.
And
Strange New Worlds, yeah.
And I know in the past he's mentioned like Buffy and Pixar and all sorts of sort of influences, but not Doctor Who, although they do sort of take the tropes of Doctor Who all the time. I'm starting to wonder if maybe the best audience for Doctor Who is not the 1834 demographic they apparently are so desperate for, but maybe the 40, 50-year-old demographic that might actually embrace a bit more horror in Doctor Who, possibly.
Yeah. I agree.
Because some of your drawings you've done Alien, you've done them. I mean, by the way, he's the original masks. I just wanted to show you some rare footage as we're talking. Now, Jeremy, you can jump on the next item. Remember, the monster debate, you can take in many directions. I'm going to start with Jeremy. Is there a monster you think it's just been wrecked by Doctor Who over the years? It's been changed, vandalized, wrecked, and you've just had enough. Is there a monster you really are aggravated by and what Doctor Who has maltreated?
There's probably a few, but I think the Daleks have been messed about a bit over the later years.
Okay, take us through that.
With the Paragram Daleks and and the Thin Daleks and the Jodie Whittaker. you know, it's better they just keep it to the same form, traditional, and just change the colours.
Well, there's Daryl Joyce's. I assume you approve of that one, Jeremy.
Yeah, great.
Look at that. Look at that.
It's, you know, but these Daleks I'm not too keen on.
Now you see, can we just be fair for a second? I'm intrigued what the thread thinks, and obviously, I mean, the Jodie Whittaker era I managed to just get through. When I look at the picture of these Daleks in Downing Street, that kind of, you know, neon blue and everything, I sometimes wonder whether they look darker and more sinister. I mean, could you buy into that idea?
No, I just don't like that reiteration of the Daleks. I much prefer the traditional Dalek.
Yeah, those.
I mean, the Dalek on the left in that central picture, that's okay. But the Paragram Daleks, I just didn't really grab me.
No.
They lose a lot of their menace, I think, in that.
Well, they look like toys, don't they? Though, and the silhouette is terrible.
Yeah.
There needs to be like a Dalek version of Weight Watchers. You know, for the
looks like he's got a bad back. I mean,
Dalek.
the back's, it's like it's got backache or something.
Yeah, it's like a grandparent Dalek. It's like, you know, it's like give him a walking stick and there's your Dalek. It's
to me, it's not as threatening as I would say the traditional form, and particularly the way they're filmed. Obviously, whatever director films them in a particular way, they look more menacing than other directors film them.
Yeah, they need to get back to, if you think about like all the any of the pre-Davros Dalek stories, but especially the 60s stories, that they were cunning strategists, you know, planning like 10 levels ahead. And then when Davros was introduced, they kind of became just the subordinates of Daleks. But they need to get back to the early 60s representation of the global conquerors and the strategists.
Are you happy that, I mean, in many ways, I'm happy that RTD seems to be resting the Daleks because of what he did with Davros.
They need a rest, though. They do need a rest, though.
They do need a rest. I actually think you need to split Davros from the Daleks, number one, for quite a long time.
But Davros has been ruined, obviously, after what they did with him in his last appearance. I mean, that was just like a bombshell when we saw him as in the middle image where he was obviously not before he's in the chair. I know it's like set as a prequel, but that was so damaging. You know, he was so iconic as the creator in the bottom of the Dalek when she sits in. It was so iconic. I'm still, again, one of the biggest upsets in recent years was having that. And I still can't believe they did it for such a.
Well, it's interesting, Michael, that when I was texting Daryl earlier, Daryl's version of Davros is basically you're saying doesn't need messing with, didn't you? You said it basically. Why mess with it?
I mean, that looks great. That looks fantastic. You know, I mean, that's what we want to see. We didn't see it anymore. It's been taken away because it's offensive, because it depicts people with disabilities as evil caricatures or something. What are they talking about? You can't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, how could they do that? I mean, Davros was a character who was in a mobility vehicle. That's nothing about people with disabilities. I said to you before about it. I just think it's ridiculous.
Mind you, you've got, and I can't let Stephen Moffat off either. He made that eye open. I mean, no. I mean, you know, we've got somebody who's in a wheelchair suddenly can stand. You've got somebody who's blind who can suddenly see. I mean, what are we doing with
that? Was strange. Why did he do that? Because as far as we were aware, that his eyes were almost like welded shut, and he had an artificial eye. And then suddenly he opens his eyes, even though wasn't actually explained, was it?
I thought it was burned. I mean, he's got burns, hasn't he? He was burnt. So I assumed he'd lost his eyes; they'd melted away.
Yeah, and
it's melted.
That's why he had the blue eye in the middle to replace it.
Yeah.
Very strange.
I think it was always implied that he was so ancient that, you know, he just looked like a really decrepit old man and just lost all his functions, and he needed that machine to keep him alive.
Just to keep it, yeah.
So he's like 200 years old or something. So
that should be what the dichotomy of Davros is, because you just look at the original design of the character or Daryl's picture here, is that you think, okay, this character is blind, you know, confined to this travel unit, so therefore no threat, where actually Davros is like the biggest threat of all. That's the split. That's why you have to kind of keep Davros,
but also
just
having
the way that he
him
is.
trapped in that sort of device, even though he's still evil and he's still got his own objectives, that makes him very interesting, doesn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what they took away.
Yeah.
And that's what's, you just can't do that. I'm sorry, you can't do that.
So, well, there's nobody in the thread who's going with the new version of Davros, but that does not surprise me because most Doctor Who fans have not bought into this. I don't know who has. Heather
Nobody.
Can we find where the files have gone and have them tell everyone that what Davros and Daleks are supposed to be? I know it's like a revisionism. And also something about our society nowadays and our media that likes to revise things and basically gaslight over there. Show us the real Davros. Show us the real Davros. Stop telling us he can walk again and nonsense. David Harding, Davros the way he was, didn't need to change. He was a scary character and he should remain that way. And do you know what, David? I don't know what the panel thinks, but that very first moment when he's in that cave, a ruin, and you see him at the end of episode 1 Genesis is still one of the best moments with Davros.
Real shock, yeah.
And, you know, nearly there with Destiny when he was still in cobwebs and he came alive again. But, you know.
Yeah.
But why mess with that? You've destroyed an iconic villain.
Yeah, I love the fact that they actually changed the bottom half as well. It's not an actual Dalek bottom half, is it? I think it might be the one from the Radio Times 10th anniversary Build a Dalek. I think.
Oh, okay.
So it's different. The balls are smaller and the angles are slightly different. So whereas the new one, or at least the one from New Who post whenever it was that Davros came back, that is just the bottom half of the Dalek.
Okay, I didn't realise that. Okay.
So it looks a bit. To me, it looks a bit too tall, and it looks a bit bulkier than it could do. Because this looks like an early version of a Dalek. It looks what you do. It looks like what you developed the Daleks from. You know.
Michael Nemo's venturing here, and with part of this monster debate, everybody in the thread, I do actually want to kind of go in so many different directions. We're not just going to go monster by monster, don't worry. Michael Nemo says, I think the start of Davros's downfall was seeing him as a child. No, this is the point. I asked early on in the monster debate, if you want to bring a monster back, for what reason are you going to retcon it, give it an origin story? Do you want to bring it back and revive it because it was treated abominably by bad budget or bad storyline? It deserves it with a better kind of world building behind it. In this case, why did we go into a Davros origin story and start to go away? And Big Finish started this. This is the trouble. Once Big Finish start doing things, the TV program starts to go, we might do that. We might do that. I didn't want to see Davros as a kid. I didn't. Not in that feat.
I didn't want to see the Master as a kid either.
No. I agree. The sound of the drums. I mean, Daryl, was the Master ever mad? No, he wasn't. He was calculating.
Yeah.
He wasn't a mad kid. So if I asked you, Gary, what do you think is the biggest blasphemy in Doctor Who monster creation over time?
Well, going by New Who only, I would say I have two. One is the Sontarans, which I think New Who has had a couple of good Sontaran stories, but the character of Strax, I think, kind of irredeemably made Sontarans into like a comedy villain, because that's what you associate. If you think about, Sontarans, you think of Strax, the butler. You know, he's the kind of the joke Sontaran now, which to me, then that kind of kneecapped all of the Sontarans as a serious threat. But the other is the Cybermen. I don't think, with one exception, I don't think New Who has done the Cybermen properly once. They've reduced them now to like Stompy, and all the elements that Kit Pedler and Jerry Davis had when they created the Cybermen back in 1966 with the 10th Planet, in terms of the threat of mankind kind of giving themselves over slowly to technology, and what's the end goal and result of that has been lost. Now they're just kind of like wind up stompy villains, with the one exception of the Capaldi two-parter, which brought back the Mondasian Cybermen, which brought back that element of body horror.
Yeah.
Because it was a direct tie back to what they originally were. With the exception of that, New Who has never, ever done the Cybermen right.
Now, Daryl, I've got your picture up here. I'm guessing from all the Cybermen you've done, is this one you think is the darker one, the more lethal one?
Yeah, I've always thought the 10th Planet Cybermen were they're the creepiest, aren't they? I mean, the fact that they've got that sort of gauze face pulled tight, it's like a full face balaclava sort of affair.
I love that image. It looks great.
Yeah.
I think they are. And the way they speak is sort of weird. When you first see the 10th Planet, you think, oh, that's an interesting way to talk and stuff. But actually, it just adds to the horror of them. They are, they've got, modulation on their voices because they haven't got, a proper voice box and stuff. And it's you don't need to really explain these things. It's just, it comes to you slowly that these are people that have just augmented so much of it. A bit like Doctor Who itself. It's so augmented now that it's lost its character.
And even that picture on the left is great because I know this may not have been the intention, but like the skin looks stretched, like the skin of the Cybermen creatures has been stretched back, to fit all of the attachments that, they've done to themselves. And that just adds to, what they're trying to create.
Yeah, I mean, that foreground one looks a little bit like, I mean, this is bad, but it looks a bit like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Almost like a horror sort of character.
They've turned into tin soldiers, haven't they? This is the problem. Whereas, as you say, you could see the flesh here. You can see the taut areas. I mean, I have to say, they were sold badly to me as a kid because obviously the only pictures I could see weren't selling it to me. The stories were fine. The 10th Planet, but obviously when you saw it with Capaldi, you thought, oh wow, wow.
They were good,
and but this is the problem, don't you find, everybody? This is the thing I fear about Doctor Who going into the 62nd year, 65th year, 70th year, which is, as this series gets longer, every showrunner with a bit of an ego, every model maker, every designer with a bit of I want to show my kind of fingerprint on this, changes an original. So there's how they're designed, the design gets changed. Why? And then on top of that, how their story gets changed. I mean, we've just mentioned now we've had a Sontaran turned into a butler, and we've got a Silurian turned into a butler. What is this fetish with story writers to turn our best monsters into butlers?
Yeah.
And then to turn a Cyberman into a clunky kind of Meccano set instead of actually some body horror.
Well, the Cybermen are more like robots now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Rather than
they're more like, they used to be more like cyborgs, but as you say, they're more like robots now. They're completely changed. They're dynamic.
Yeah.
Even in the 80s, when I used to like the fact that the helmets in the 80s, you used to see the bottom of the helmets was see-through, and you could see like the silver of their skin and their jaws talking. I thought that really worked in that era.
Oh, like the Earth Shock.
That era, exactly.
Yeah, that was a brilliant addition.
I love that.
That was still
really
true
clever.
To the
really, and the new stuff is like delete. Like, no, piss off. You know what I mean? Pardon my French. I mean, it just didn't work. I mean, look at these images here. I mean, I'd love to see something like that. That'd be really fantastic.
Well, as Daryl, you said, this is akin to Earthshock, but it's not the same, is it? What did you adapt on this one?
Well, I never really liked the Cybermen for that skull face that a lot of people sort of,
Yeah.
I just think it changes it too much because apparently the Earthshock Cybermen were directly pulled from the original Invasion mask.
Yes.
Sculpted around that.
Yes.
And for me, the Invasion mask is the best, or the Invasion suit is the best, even though it's just a wetsuit. It's still they've got the right physique. The actors playing the Cybermen have got the right physique to carry it on.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can do better than the Invasion Cybermen, really, or the 10th Planet. Those are the two best, I think. That Sentinel one, which is sort of like the black Cybermen from Attack of the Cybermen.
Yeah.
I just thought I wasn't gonna sort of do that thing with the cheekbones, but then I did it and I thought, I quite like it. So I'll put it up there and see what people think of it. But I quite like the fact that it's got a blank face. It's just a mouth and eye sockets, you know.
Can you imagine if when they returned in season 2 of New Who, if we'd have seen these Cybermen that we're seeing on the screen right now? That would have been epic. It would have been so good because you can recognize the 80s aesthetics partly as well with the bigger side bits.
Yeah.
And I can see, and the shoulders match the 80s as well, but it looks a bit more. It looks darker. It looks more sinister. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Now, Heather throws a spanner in the works here, says, I think Cybermen are about the only monsters that can change a bit in design depending on the era. Now, that's true because they kind of are evolving. That's part of their story. It gives an excuse to the designers. But I hear what you're saying, Daryl, because I actually just think there needs to be rules in Doctor Who that we don't keep evolving the monsters, because with every success, we have a failure. And it just seems I don't know, since RTD got back in 2005, the Cybermen haven't been done that well, really. Earthshock, fine, the Sentinel version there. I like that one. While we're on this one, you mentioned the invasion of the dinosaurs. I mean, we've got the the controller didn't look the same in the Attack of the Cybermen, but what about the Cybermats? What would you reckon to them?
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Have we seen the New Who Cybermats? We have, haven't we? We have seen them.
No.
Yeah, they were in the story, weren't they?
Yeah.
I think they were in the James Corden story, weren't they?
That's it.
Yes. They were tiny. They were vicious actually in that. I mean, that's cute.
No, that's from Tomb of the Cybermen right there.
Yeah. And of course, in Tomb of the Cybermen, just for those who like a nice, unusual shot, look at those Cybermen waiting to get their masks on.
Yeah.
Absolutely love
it's
that.
Interesting. I've never seen that photograph where you can see up and they've got a mirror above the top to make it look twice as long.
Yes.
Clever.
It's a brilliant shot, isn't it? It's a brilliant shot. But yes, Cybermats, would you have them back? I mean, like you say, Nightmare and Silver did them, and they did look smaller, like little metal piranhas, really. But would you have that down in the darker version of Doctor Who you'd like?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, you've given them teeth there, Daryl. You've obviously gone for the piranha element.
Yeah, I might revisit that one. I wasn't keen on that one really, but I might redo that one. Yeah, I don't know. I sort of wanted to base it on the ones from the Wheel in Space. I think is what I was going for there.
Well, just to show David Harding that shot again, because yes, I'm trying to show rare shots at the same time. I mean, God, Tomb of the Cybermen. Thank God, number one, we found the video again, and two, look at that photograph again. You know where to get it. Photo Research Group in Facebook.
Yeah,
they all are. So yes, Cybermen. Good call out, Gary, about the issues we have with the Cybermen and the redesign and the redesign and the redesign. Are you happy overall with the story about them? Because there's the nonsense about Mondas and Telos. There's have we got an origin story? Do we need one? Do we just move on now? You've got the element of the alternative universe Cybermen, which is Gary, where would you go with the Cybermen next?
Well, I mean, when you think about it, it is a very simple story. It was like a race who, in order to prolong their own lives, gradually, bit by bit, gave themselves over to modifying themselves, with tech in this, which is great because it basically has a real world, allegory about the threat of conceding your humanity to the convenience of technology. And that's still very relevant. And like I said, and there's instant horror elements, there's instant body horror elements too. Those are the things that you have to keep in any future iteration. Now, one of the great things about this design that we're looking at is it keeps that design of, you always have to have something in the design which shows that they were originally human.
Yeah.
The minute you hand that off to, as Jeremy said, to toy soldiers or tin soldiers, you've lost the point of the Cybermen completely. So you have to keep that.
So this is like a pre-10th Planet Cyberman, is it? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I'm just thinking like something like this is like, you can always tell that this is like, we used to be a humanoid that has modified themselves into this, which is the story of, what the Mondasians did. So you have to keep that element as your foundation.
One of the worst things to me about the Cyberman evolution has been they had that kind of, well, at some point they had built-in weapons on them, sometimes from their helmet area there, and then they're holding that bigger item there. And then the invented weakness of gold. The gold in weakness has become a bit of a farce now. I'll get a few kind of little
gold dust.
Yeah, and I can kill them. And of course, in Earthshock, it was a turnaround to me because equally, I hated the fact that you could just turn and shoot them. And that was it. I think the Cybermen have become lesser since the mid-70s myself, and that's my concern. They should be more lethal. When I used to watch the Borg in Star Trek, and I know the Cybermen came first.
Yes.
But the Borg were lethal, and you really thought, gosh, how does Picard get out of this? Because they will not miss. And once you've shot them once, they recalibrate, don't they? And you think, come on, you can do this. And in a way, Nightmare and Silver tried to do something clever with them, didn't it? Where they could go faster, and it was like that slow motion Matrix thing. But
yeah,
well, and even the Borg, ripped off homaged the element, the "you will be like us" element, which was all over, the first few appearances of the Cybermen in the 60s. You will be like us. We will make you like us.
Yeah,
that was also intrinsic to
definitely all taken
what the Cybermen were all about.
Yes, Star Trek took it, and they actually adapted it. And they actually did very well. But I mean, I was going to ask, has gold as a threat ever been featured in New Who for the Cybermen? I don't know if it's ever been featured in.
I can remember.
So the last time we actually saw gold as a
Revenge of the Cybermen.
Revenge, in the 80s, yeah.
Well, and then Adric Star.
That was gold, yeah.
And it's shouted out by the companion. No, there wasn't something in Silver Nemesis with the catapult.
Yes, you're right. It was
Ace shot the slingshot with the gold pieces,
coins or something, wasn't it?
So the thing is, once somebody gets one simple plot device from the Jerry Davis Revenge, suddenly it's turned into, in Silver Nemesis, you fire a catapult of gold and it will instantly, for God's sake. We got
to have some sort of plot where you've got to destroy them, because
there's gold arrows as well. It was actually
can't make them
fired.
Too invincible.
Yeah.
The thing is, Jeremy, when you build an amazing creative universe like Doctor Who has, it doesn't need any more. It does not need any more. It's got way more than Star Trek and everybody. It just needs to kind of be realistic. So, for example, Jeremy, my argument would be, if I was a showrunner, is the Cybermen are not obliterated. They are just partially defeated. And the Doctor knows that he's going to have to face them again.
Yeah.
Some of the Dalek stories, he kind of said that at the end. He knew they'd reappear.
Yeah.
And it wasn't
even though, see, the thing with the Cybermen is that the unless I'm wrong, and please tell me, anybody who's familiar with the chronology, that when we saw, unlike the Master, where we saw the encounters with the Doctor in order, the Cybermen stories kind of skipped all over the place. It's like they either took place before the last story we saw or after. Revenge of the Cybermen, remember, was after this great cyber war, and the few Cybermen, the Doctor even says that the few Cybermen they encountered on the wheel were the last remnants of that in Revenge of the Cybermen. And I think so even Earthshock supposedly took place chronologically before that. So the Cybermen chronology is all over the place in the classic.
Yeah, and Tomb of the Cybermen is obviously after they died out.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to shout out one of mine. I mean, these are the questions I've got thread and panel, right? So one is, which monsters have been really wrecked by a horrible incremental evolution? Which monsters were rubbish in their one and only appearance, but you think there's actually scope for them coming back now, actually? Monsters that we need to take more seriously than actually the producers have done before, that kind of thing. And so one of mine, if I can just throw one in for now, is actually, and I've gone on about it because they're my favorite monster. They were my entry point into Doctor Who, and it's the Sea Devils. And the Sea Devils, if I start with Daryl, I mean, Daryl, you've made them fascinating there. Look at that. Now, and this is what I mean, everybody. I mean, if you've not seen Daryl Joyce's work, go on Twitter, get the calendar. I'll advertise the stuff later. Get that book there, Illustrator Journey, because I'm fascinated. I mean, yeah, you could be an illustrator, Daryl, and just replicate, so to speak, but you are redesigning. You are actually saying, hold on a minute. Now, what's your thinking behind this Sea Devil here?
Well, I think it's just an accurate, fairly accurate drawing to this 1972 version. I don't think I've really changed that much in it. I've just sort of, if you were doing it now and you were staying true to the design, I think that's probably the way it would look.
I know what you mean. I think it's what you've cleverly done, I think, is flailed the kind of fins around, a bit like one of those frill-necked lizards. You've really gone a bit more on that, which is good. Whereas obviously the design of the model head was a bit more just pulled back, wasn't it? But I kind of think, I mean, there's the version we're comparing it to, not that one. There's the original. I mean, isn't it funny, Daryl, before I move on to the others, the string vest works.
Yeah.
The fisherman's net, so to speak.
Yeah, I think there was I don't know which book it was in, but I think it was Tenant talking about, they've just found their clothing on the seafloor and they've just sort of adapted what they can find. And I think that book works better than the samurai outfits because, obviously they put that helmet on top of their head and it all starts to lean over to one side and it doesn't look that great, does it? And for some reason they gave them really big feet, didn't they? So they sort of tripping over their own feet. They should have learned that lesson in the 60s, really, shouldn't they?
There's so much. I mean, and since I've picked this item, the evolution or wrecking of Sea Devils, the original, they are athletic, they are nimble, they are fast in the original. In the second one you've just said there, Daryl, they've got too much, they're encumbered by too much stuff. And yes, the wobbly heads and why they need, you see, in the original, they seem to kind of have that gun almost fitted with them. It felt like anyway. You didn't see that just seems to be some sort of kind of lampshade they're holding. It's funny on the cultural appropriation front that RTD seems to be so hot on now in Tales of the TARDIS that actually Chris Chibnall in an earlier era has done a kind of cultural appropriation of certain kind of costume. I've got no problem with it. It just doesn't work. But why have we gone down this road when, again, we're humanizing them. We're dressing them up like dolls. I really don't know why we can't go back to, as you say, pull it back, pare it back. Now, Daryl, for a second, when you were looking at the different versions of the Sea Devil, were there any elements of, say, the later one that you were tempted to use?
I think that one from whatever it's called, the Legend. Is it Legend of the Sea Devil?
Yeah, the one.
I think it's a good sculpt, but it almost looks a little bit too cartoonish.
Wasn't it CGI? Wasn't it with the?
They were leaping around, weren't they? I think that might be.
I can't remember.
Do you not? I'm curious. I'm curious, Gerald. Do you not think? I think that the problem with the figure on the right is it makes them look too much like turtles.
Yeah.
I think also looking at some of your designs, which are very impressive, it's almost like they're trying to make. I mean, that I would love to see something like that. I mean, I'm sure that the people who make these masks, and they can make something which looks as good as that. But they make these characters, these aliens, look almost like kiddie friendly, And I like the 80s Who because in some aspects it was a bit darker. But do you think they just try to be very careful? Or we can't make them look too scary because it's going to upset people? Or do you think it's just, I don't know, it just doesn't strike me.
If you look, I'm fascinated. If you look at the eyes on this one that Daryl illustrated, and I'm fascinated that when we talk about the latest version, the eyes are
on the right. Look at that. I mean, that's just not there, is it? It's just awful.
They always did have bigger eyes, of course. I understand that. I do understand that. But I'm interested because actually one of the things you've changed, it seems, Daryl, is the eyes.
Yeah, but that looks good. That looks like it's a.
It does. It does look good.
That looks to me like I'd love to see a Sea Devil that looks like that. That looks really good.
So one of the things I like about the original 1972 Sea Devil is one of them has got a milky eye, and I don't know why they decided to do that.
Yeah,
I love the fact that they did that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that shot. That might be the foreground one, actually. But yeah, one of them's got a milky man. I think that does make it look more menacing, but probably somebody will say, "Oh, you can't do that. It's just a disability. You can't do that." So
probably in production,
Yeah.
made a mess of it in production.
Yeah,
maybe.
probably.
And remember, this is one of the other issues I wanted to bring into the debate with my example, which is, okay, the design has changed, which I don't like, especially the fact that it can now fly and all this nonsense. That thing, no showrunner should have allowed that. The second thing is, they have become secondary to the Silurians, which I've never applauded at all. So from Warriors of the Deep onwards, the Silurians seem to be higher up in the pecking order. And I thought, no. Why are you doing that? The Sea Devils as a species are cousins of the Silurians.
Yeah.
And so I'm fearful, and I'm raising this as an issue because the legend, so I keep saying the Legend of the Sea Devils, but the spin-offs come in with 5 episodes of Sea Devils, and I really fear that they might be tempted to do the Chibnall version of the Sea Devil with the flying, with the nonsense, maybe female Sea Devils.
Yeah.
We've got female Silurians, so we're going to have female Sea Devils, I'm sure. It's just, and I've got no problem with that in one respect, apart from please don't bring gender politics into it.
They will. They will.
Okay, I was going to say they will.
What planet am I on? I know. So, Sea Devils, the plots changed, the stories changed, their origin seems to have changed, their pecking order in Doctor Who seems to have changed. I just think they've been pretty much shafted in Doctor Who. So, if I asked everybody now as an example of another thing, right? Thread, everybody, are you ready? Which monster maybe only appeared once, but you think deserves now, with a bigger budget, CGI, and all the things we can do, and maybe a better story than the original, deserves to come back?
Creature from the Pit.
Yes, no.
Candyman.
The corpse.
Which is the one monster they'll never do again.
Candyman.
The Candyman, right, Michael? You tell me why the Candyman while I go finding him.
I just think it was, obviously it's a very strange character, but I just think that if they redid it and made, I don't know, I just think when the episode appeared, it was a very strange Bertie Bassett kind of thing. But I don't know, I just kind of like the idea that it comes back and it's deteriorated and damaged, but it still has some elements from the first episode. And
in my candy kitchen.
Yeah, I just don't know why, but I just think as you said specifically, one appearance.
Yeah.
And the Candyman only appeared once. So of course they wouldn't write it well these days, but I could potentially see an episode where it comes back in some. I mean, did it survive? I can't remember how it ended.
No, it got melted down in the.
Well, it got melted down, or what? I don't know. Or maybe it has.
It's now a jammy dodger.
Well, maybe he had a son or something. I don't know.
I mean, Daryl, you've given him a bit of that alien forehead thing, haven't you? You've gone for that. Whoa.
Well, this is amazing.
The thing is, people said that he's got a long head, but he hasn't got a long head. He's just looking in the other direction.
Looks a bit like looks at the top. Looks like a xenomorph. It looks a bit xenomorphy from Alien at the top.
That's what but I get what you're saying now regarding the illustration. Yes, I know what you mean. He's just turning, isn't he?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I get you. Well, he's certainly not looking like that.
No.
But yeah, you've gone for more like, I don't know, it's like candy limbs, Daryl. You've kind of given him sinews and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another one I'm not entirely keen on, but
really? It's beautiful.
Yeah, I like it.
It kind of looks like, and this is not. It looks to me like this is like what, like a Candyman, like without skin. Like we're seeing, as you said, the muscles, the sinews. The rib structure
taken off.
This is like Candyman.
Skeletal,
with all the skin off, and I think that it's just great.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Definitely.
So you called out that one, Michael. In the thread, well, I'm going to jump to Jeremy in a minute, and Gary and Daryl, but basically the crinoids I've just seen Anthony Parkinson is shouting out for. The crinoid, only seeds of doom, and they were blooming lethal. I mean, it took the RAF to get rid of them, but I would have thought there's a few more pods out there. There's Daryl's work again.
Oh yeah. I'd like to see them come. Oh yeah. Oh, they're going to bring those back. They're really, I can see that happening, definitely.
And actually, my favorite part of Seeds of Doom was the first 2 parts. It was that building of the tension as it grew. There's one of the rare photographs of the actual crinoid in action. But I agree with you, Anthony Parkinson. I really would like that. And Lee Smith is saying mummy robots. Yes, the mummy robots. What a design! Outstanding.
Oh
design.
yeah.
David Hardin is saying the Rutans. We've got the Rutans. We talked about them in the Horror Fan Rock with the latest version, so I'll get them up in a minute. Fendal is mentioned. I haven't got a picture of the Fendal. What does everyone think of bringing the Fendal back?
Possibility.
Yeah, because it has a fascinating, backstory. The fact that it's death. It's like, how do you kill death? Was the line from that story. So yeah, there's a lot you could do with that. The concept of the character, much less the look. Yeah.
So Jeremy, a monster that's not been given a good kind of selling, and we need to do it again.
Well, I'm quite happy that if they brought back the quarks.
Yeah,
quarks.
The quarks. Yes, I thought they were very good, and it would be quite interesting if they did bring them back.
Well, first of all, I'll show Daryl's version of the quarks. There you go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a 60s one. I'd love to see them done now. Daryl, have you got them flying or something there? I'm trying to think where you've got them.
No, I don't.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
And when you're talking about other creatures, I'm thinking, why do the sea devils fly? Why do the Cybermen fly? Why do the devils fly? Why does everything fly these days? No, I don't.
I know. And then they just obliterate them in seconds. So you have a million Daleks, and you just obliterate. Now, talk me through the changes you did here, because there's the originals.
Yeah.
And how did you think you could modernize them?
Well, I thought, keep the sort of slightly cute aspect to them. They can be cute, but they can be menacing. You can sort of mistake them for being quite cute robots, but actually they're quite lethal.
Yeah.
And tone down the sort of square box thing a little bit, but not entirely. But keep the arms that angle outwards. So the quark behind the first one's got the arms closed. The second one's got the arms open, so you can see that it does the same thing. And yeah, it's not too far removed. It's just I suppose it does look a bit of a radical redesign, but I'm trying to keep the essence of it.
Yeah,
I like it.
I mean, I think the originals were kind of cute, a little like toys in a way, but obviously they're quite deadly.
Yeah.
And that's what I think has the charm and the appeal of them.
Yeah.
Well, they were kind of designed to be in part like a toy replacement for the Daleks, because the Daleks had been kind of off the show for a while. And in the TV comic that was running concurrently with this, they were like every week was Doctor Who versus the Quarks.
Yeah.
So they were envisioned as the next big thing, but they never took off.
Yeah, they were quite popular in TV comics.
The thing is, and I'm not just saying it's because Daryl's here, I'm so glad Daryl came on, but some of these illustrations, I really honestly wish they would do.
Me too. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, because you've mixed, you still want monsters that have a cuteness in some ways, because there's a double-edged sword there.
Sure.
But and I just think there's enough kind of attitude to those quarks that you've just reinvented. Now, a few people in the thread have mentioned, David Hardin, one of them, has mentioned the Vord. So let me just kind of, who wants to kind of give a shout out to the Vord? Who bringing them back? We're going back to 64? Way back. Now, Daryl obviously gets first choice and nibs on the illustration. There he is.
Yeah.
Daryl, the knife will have to go.
No way.
Yeah.
But they were lethal. They were predatory. They were like rogue.
I'm not going to go there, but yeah.
Just picking up.
Daryl makes them look less like scuba divers.
Yeah. So there's Daryl's version.
Yeah, more like a menacing motorcyclist, really, I suppose.
Yeah,
no, I like it.
I do.
I like the darkness around the eyes, the way that it's sort of like it's sculpted around the head and the fins at the back with the hole. Yeah, that looks really good.
Yeah, I don't think you really need the fins. Because I mean, presumably they're wearing like wetsuits anyway in the episode, aren't they? They're not.
Yeah. So they could probably replicate that and do something if they were actually brought this. How about pteroleptals? Have you ever? That's another one I was just thinking about as well.
He has done pteroleptals.
Yeah.
You'll need to give me a moment, but why do you want them back? I want them back. I love them in the Visitation. I just think
they're really
the prison planet, you know.
Yeah. I think we've only ever seen them once. We've never seen them in New Who. They've been mentioned in New Who. Oh yes.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, that works for me definitely. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah,
now, and I know in many ways, Daryl, you've got them very similar to as they were in the Visitation, but for some reason, to me, they look a bit bulkier. To me, they look a bit a bit more fierce.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's because obviously, the original it's a bit like the Ice Warriors. You know, the legs on the original Ice Warriors are a bit like waders, aren't they? So they haven't got any muscle mass to them, have they? But yeah, it's a bit bulkier. It's not quite so. I mean, I didn't look at that many photographs of them. Maybe I should have done because there's quite a lot of differences. I didn't.
No, it does grasp the essence of what they look like in the first episode. I can certainly recognise them straight away if they appeared like that.
I remember one of them, the main one by Mike Amelia was scarred anyway, wasn't he?
That's right. Yeah.
So he can't. I thought they were scarred from being on the prison planet. So it's interesting that Daryl's gone for actually what they might look like when they haven't been captured, and just what they're like. So the pteroleptals, there you go. Nice shout out. I can see Jeremy's got it in his background. You know, the good old.
Oh yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
He's behind you, Jeremy.
So as we're going through this, I feel as though we're just doing shout outs to monsters at the moment, but you know that how they've been badly realized or just they had a rubbish story and we just think that they deserve a better story. Do you know one that got a really good story and I've done them in Big Finish, but I think they should be brought back on TV is the Vok Robots. The Vok Robots, I think you could do, they could be in loads of stories because there must be a universe of Vok Robots.
Well, they're in the Caldor City audios. Yeah.
But surely, there they are. There's Daryl.
Oh, again. Yeah.
And, oh, gosh, their design. I mean, that was a hard one for you, Daryl, wasn't it? Because I'm sure you did not want to redesign them at all.
No. It's the same with like Davros and some of the others I've done. I don't really want to. I'm just redrawing them. I'm not redesigning them, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just noticed the interesting thing about Daryl's redesign is that from the original, it looks like, okay, they're robots that are wearing like a jacket or wearing pants. With Daryl's redesign, it looks like it's organic, like that. The clothes are kind of like part of the actual body.
Yeah.
There. Yes.
See, it looks like, I mean, the sleeves, it doesn't look like it's a robot that's wearing something.
It's connected to it all together. Yeah, I can see that.
Now, Jeremy, sorry, I missed it. And everybody's wondering why I'm zooming in on your ear. Go on, show us that because he's got, whoa, look at that. He's got D84.
Oh my God.
There's one I made earlier.
It's really good. Wow.
No, I wish I had made it. No, it's
D84. Oh, my friend. And you know, as a kid, I wanted D84 to be a companion. I just loved him. And I just think story-wise and budget-wise, you could easily do the Vok Robots. And they're lethal. There's a simple story. You don't need to make a whole universe of slugs. You don't need to do it. You can have humans in a costume with a brilliantly sculpted mask and they strangle you. Come on. How hard is this?
You can't go wrong with that, can you, really?
No. I mean, honestly, why are they trying to... This is the problem, I think, with sometimes TV and movies nowadays, is they're trying to pretend that they can't say, yeah, we'll bring back the Vok Robots. They need to do something new with them. And you go, no, scare the kids, make a thriller, get on with it.
They sort of brought them back in a lesser way in that Kylie Minogue Christmas one, didn't they?
Yes, with the...
Oh, yeah. Similar, yes.
Yeah. Well, Crimpling, good on you.
Titanic, Titanic.
The way to bring back the Vok Robots is to have them in a few stories over a few years. in the background, being perfectly nice until one story when they suddenly go bad. Oh, crimpling. You mean plan within planning within planning? Oh my God. You mean don't rush a script? Oh gosh.
That doesn't happen in these days. No, that's not going to happen. It's a great
Yeah.
idea.
I think RTD's Santa Robots was his version of this.
Yeah, it is a good. I agree with you. Obviously, I would like a showrunner, like I said about world building, that before you even write Ron's script, and they were waiting for Sex Education to finish. So hold on, RTD, build your layers. What does the universe look like? I know he's obsessed with spin-offs and that, but no. What does the universe look like? Where are the Daleks? What's going on with them? And actually spend a bit of time really planning. Get a writer's room together and really plan this through. And as you said, Crimpling, then filter in the different monsters. It would be fab.
Yeah,
that's right.
Now a few people...
So
how about Vervoids?
Well, I'm laughing because I haven't got a picture. But
I might have one. I don't know. I'll have a look.
Vervoids, are you taking the mick?
No, I didn't mind the Vervoids. I know everybody hates them. I actually didn't mind them.
They could bring the Vervoids back to do with all this vegetarianism and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's right on point.
Yeah, a couple people in the chat have mentioned Movellans.
Yes,
which I think is a great idea as long as they all look like Suzanne Danielle, you know, from the original Destiny of the Daleks. Then I'd be all for that.
Isn't it?
Only because it's been mentioned a couple times in the chat. I want to get mine in because I did have it written down early. I wasn't just copying. I'd like them to bring back the Axons from Claws of Axos, because I think that was, not only was it a great design, it was a great story. And I think that beyond just like whatever redesign the Axons were given, you could do a story that would be really relevant today about, you know, the aliens coming in promising everything for free, you know, and now we're in a world where, you know, we have a lot of people who will be more than willing to take anything as long as it's free, you know, something for nothing. So you could write a really relevant story that's set now that the Axons would be perfect for. And I just think their original design was great. They did come back in one of the Doctor Who magazine comic serials with the 11th Doctor and Amy and Rory, which was set in modern day Japan, where the Axons came back. And that was a really, really good story. Yeah. But they could do a lot with... Now, bear in mind, I don't want any of this to happen under the current bankrupt regime. All of these ideas will be happening after we get somebody, you know, who's not so creatively, you know, bankrupt in to do them all right.
Choose your words very carefully. Yes.
Yes. No, I know.
But you see, it's interesting about the Movellans as an example, because as people are saying that we had the argument, not our argument, but Sutek had to get rid of all the Egyptology because of cultural appropriation, because of somebody's sensitivities in our London postcode. And you think, hold on a minute. Well, the Movellans had those kind of, you know, Jamaican kind of, you know, their hairstyle was, you know, emblematic of an ethnic minority, and
it comes under DEI, isn't it?
Yeah,
so they could definitely bring them back.
Now, a few people were shouting out earlier the Ruin.
Yes, the Ruin.
Now, yes, I agree with this. I'm trying to remember. Give us a shout out again. Who said the Ruin? Because yes, I agree with you. I think with a bigger budget. I mean, they were well done in Ark in Space, but I think now you could really go to town, because I love the fact that they just, you know, I mean, they're classic insects. They find a body, they inject their eggs,
take over, and
and there's two rare photographs from Ark in Space. There's Tom Baker using it as a lounger, and there's the rehearsal, because Harry doesn't wear that in the story, but there's two originals there. But yeah, would you bring...
I still think this is where Ridley Scott got his... I'm still convinced Ridley Scott got his ideas from aliens from watching the Ark in Space.
Yeah.
I'll never not believe that.
Yeah. I know. I think we have said on some podcasts, we have said something like this, haven't we, about that one? I mean, it was hard for them to operate and move around. I didn't mind the model shot at the end in part 4. I think that was well realized with the Nerva beacon and all the rest of it. I thought they did that well. When you were drawing this, Daryl, were you thinking if you brought it back, how could it be realized? Did you change anything?
Well, I think if they brought the women back, they would be mostly, if they were seen in long shot, they'd be CGI, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
But it would be a combination of, hopefully, it would be a combination of animatronics and CGI. That's, I think, how you do it.
Now,
or a model shot, possibly.
So my other question, though, is when bringing any monster back, never mind the design, what's the story? I mean, do you think that it's got legs, bringing the Riven back, everybody? Because he said there were like locusts in the universe, weren't there? That they're just, you know, and you can, just like we were told in the thread, somebody, I apologize, I'm thinking so quickly. Was it Crimpling who said that we could have layers in the universe and the rock robots appear here and there, and then they get their story? You can mention the Riven and then you see them in action, or you see a few husks here and there. There are so many ways you could layer Doctor Who's universe up, and it would be a thriller minute. So yes,
but I mean, you could take that very like simple description from the original 1975 story and just think about, I mean, you just think about, okay, how do locusts operate? How do locusts come onto a planet and decimate it? Use that concept of locusts and just extrapolate from that very basic idea, set it somewhere, and use the Wirren instead of locusts.
I mean, RP is, hello RP, bring back the nesting consciousness. The whole point about the nesting consciousness is with our plastic obsession on our planet and our plastic islands in the Pacific and our plastic bits in every body, what a horrific story you could do on plastic now. Because we're all eating plastic, aren't we? We've got plastic in us. So it could be a thriller. It could be right up there.
Oh, Brendan, you didn't like that story about plastic that Chris Chibnall did? Is that what you were saying?
Oh, sorry about that. Sorry, Chris. It's been erased.
What was the name of that warrior in the Five Doctors? The one that sort of went
the Raskin warrior robot.
I wouldn't mind seeing that back.
Yeah, as somebody will have seen, I had Jamie dressed up once in lycra, and he was firing. And but yes, the Raskin warrior robot. I think it's a funny one. I want him back, Michael, or her, or whatever it was. But the thing is, Michael, it was so brilliant, that cyber attack sequence, that if you brought it back, what's the story? And was only one of them? Or is there a planet of them?
Or maybe how they were created, or where they're from, or whether they have masters, or they escape their masters. I could see something happening with that.
Yeah.
They look as though they're a good guard.
Yeah.
A good kind of...
Well, some race somewhere has invented them, so you need
or
to...
maybe they destroyed their creators or something. And that's how they destroy their creators, and the creators were trying to create something which was like a defense, and it all went wrong. I could see that happening.
Yeah. The thing is, and what Crimpling is, Crimpling's onto the Riven. It's like a daddy long legs, but it'll be outside my bedroom, tapping at the window, wanting to get in. Do you know what? You know, it's the dialogue. I said it on Horror Fan Rock. The Rutan itself, but actually the story about it and the fact that it's in the water and it's cunning and it's thinking and it creates a fog, that had my head on fire as a kid. And the same with the Riven. You, as a kid, you heard the dialogue that they eat people and that they'd impregnated the eggs, and you were like, oh my God, that is horrific. And you don't necessarily have to keep showing them. And I think Horror Fan Rock was one of the best examples, because I think you only really see the Rutan properly in part 4. Just got viewpoint. You let the imagination run riot. This can be done on the cheap.
That's part of the actual enjoyment of Classic Who, that you can, it's the imagination and before the realization of what it's actually about. And then it's the build up. You don't get that in New Who.
And a good script helps as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, one that I mean, I've mentioned the Rutan, so I should show him, because it's in. I'm fascinated by this, Daryl, because this is your version of the Rutan, okay? And of course, the Blu-ray did their version, and so of course, let's just kind of soak that in. There's the Rutan according to Daryl Joyce. and there's the version realized in the Blu-ray. Now, what were you trying to do there, Daryl, regarding, because we've all made creative choices here?
Well, I just sort of kept the original elements again, the sort of green body and the sort of white hairy stuff that was over the original prop. But there is mention, I think, in the, I don't know, that the book is one of those ones that's very close to the script, isn't it? It doesn't really give you much more detail. It's quite a slim target book. But I think there is mention of sort of iridescence and stuff like that. So just giving it a sort of glowing aspect in the tentacle.
Now, obviously, there's different creative people, and I did like this version, the big eye, and what they did there. We had a debate on Wednesday, though, about whether people like to press the button on the Blu-ray and see the updated version, or they prefer the original and just go with it. Like I said on Wednesday, Dalek Invasion of Earth, I'll have the flying kettle landing on Earth. You know, I mean, do I go for the updated version? But how do we find this Rutan? I mean, does he look more lethal now? Could we do it now?
The thing I always thought is interesting about the Rutans, in whatever form they come in, is because you look at this at the creature crawling up the steps of the in part 4, crawling up the steps, and you think, how did these creatures fight the Sontarans to a standstill? You know, there's got to be something about these characters. No, seriously, there's got to be something about these characters, either how they operate or, you know, how they fight or something they're able to match, you know, the Sontarans beat for beat to where neither of them can ever win. And so it just seems like there's so much potential for, you know, backstory. Like, how does a creature like that, which you think, well, how does that creature like this operate a ship, much less, you know, fight Sontarans?
Yeah.
You know, there's got to be something more.
Yeah, I used to think, well, how the hell does a jellyfish fight a Sontaran? It doesn't make a lot of sense. But then I was thinking recently, if they were on a battlefield and they were sort of moving across, the Rutans were moving across a battlefield, and they absorbed Sontarans, a bit like the thing in the Blob. That could work.
There you go.
They wrap their tentacles around a Sontaran and just absorbed him. That would be quite effective.
Now, we mentioned one of the key monsters that we haven't mentioned yet, but we have mentioned plastic, is the Autons.
Yeah.
And what I found fascinating, Daryl, is you really have got, this is a bit like, I've forgotten what it's called, Westworld. You know, when Westworld did their...
Yeah, I can see the parallel, yeah.
Oh, gosh. I mean, this is why I asked you 2 hours ago, Daryl, when I said, do you want Doctor Who to go darker? And obviously, I think I know the answer when I see stuff like this. Because, wow, can you imagine the art? I know they had them like mannequins in Spearhead from Space, etc. I know why they look like that, but there's no reason why they can't look like that now.
I always found the creepiest Autons were the Spirit from Space ones that had no eyes. There's something about that that's much creepier than Terror the Auton.
But that's again, you've got that horrible body horror. It's like you can see every sinew. They look horrifying.
I'm actually very surprised by so many of these designs, which I haven't seen before, and they're fantastic. Just how New Who has missed some of these potentially. Can you imagine if some of these designs were actually featured, and how much better we would all perceive New Who compared to some of the rubbish that we've seen? I honestly, Daryl, this stuff is fantastic.
Michael, as a parent, you know that the kids, if
they would have loved, mine would have loved it when they were younger. They would have thought it would be fantastic.
Body horror like this, the kids would be saying, "Did you see that? Did you see that?"
Oh yeah.
Not CGI sea monsters that look like something out of CBeebies or something.
Yeah.
It's just like
one thing I know that before we finish, one thing that just popped into my head, I don't think it's even been mentioned by anybody in the chat. I apologize if it has. What about bringing back the daemons?
Well, yes. Although
I don't know what story you could do, because it seems like they were you know, that was like the perfect story for them. But I mean, I would love to imagine what a redesign of the daemons would look like.
The scariest thing about the demons now is the God thing. You know, the God Satan thing that RTD's obsessed with, and you think, no, don't include them in this, please. Don't ruin them. But I know what you mean. I know what you mean, because they should be lethal.
Yeah.
And it plays into doing a good old ghost story on Earth, of course, Gary. I mean, it's you know,
I something that Michael just said kind of like tuned me into something that was said a while back. It seems to me now, and one of the problems with the show is that it's all about neutering the menace. All of these great designs, that even the way they were originally presented in the classic series, you know, budget aside, were designed to be menacing and threatening and behind the sofa.
Taken away, it's not there
behind
now.
the sofa and all of that.
Yeah.
And these amazing designs from Daryl behind, it seems like everything we're getting now, you know, neuters menace. It doesn't, you know, to make the evil not that threatening.
This is exactly what this shows. This,
and it's like I think that's the problem at the heart of this. It's like you've taken a show that's designed to scare kids and fans in the best way, and they've intentionally neutered all of the menace.
They've just taken it away. That's amazing.
A lot of it was like Hammer Horror, and it's not Hammer Horror anymore like it used to be.
Well, one thing you mentioned, Jeremy, I want to throw it in because you had a really good example of a monster that looked really rubbish in the original version. And but now, if you look at it, the Vardens you wanted from Invasion of Time, they deserve to come back. Why? I know we can do them better, and they were done a little bit better in the Blu-ray. But why do they deserve a story? Do you reckon?
Well, the fact that they were so military orientated, and you'd expect them to be so brilliant, and obviously they were quite rubbish because they were defeated quite easily. But also, I like the fact that I like the foil effect, the shimmering foil. I think that was quite good.
What do you think of the remastered with it, where they redid it?
Yeah, I mean, that was good in its own context. But if they'd made the shimmering foil a little bit better, rather than it just looking like bacon foil, you know, that someone's dangling in front of the camera, perhaps it might have been a little bit better. I don't know.
Yeah,
but, I was quite amused by the Vardens. So.
It's easy to cosplay. You just like wrap yourself in aluminum foil, and
I think I had the plastic from Niagara Falls. I think I could have been a Varden.
I'd quite like to see the Marshmen again. We already saw those in one episodes as well.
Oh yeah.
What do you think about that, guys?
Well, Michael, that's been a swine because that would take us into E-Space and Adric.
That's good. Yeah. All right, okay.
Romana's there.
No. But okay, that'd be a great story. You could go back to Romana, and then
I'd have the marsh spiders back. I'd have them.
Oh yeah. I know.
Anyway, David had
somebody in the chat a while back mentioned the Yeti.
Yes.
I saw that.
Yeah, the Yeti, the meddling monk. I used to be the time muddler, so I agree with that as well.
Meddling monk, yeah.
Now, one that you mentioned ages ago in a text was the Naimon.
The Naimon.
You said it's a one-off, but
we saw them remastered though, didn't we? And we saw a cousin of them or something in New Who, the Naimon, didn't we? I think we did.
I'm trying to think because you said if we beef them up, Daryl, it gives them a better chance, I suppose.
Yeah, I think the problem with the Naimon is that the heads are so big, and I'm sure the physiques of the men inside them are perfectly normal, but they look so scrawny because everything else is so, the platform shoes,
the way they've done it,
and the big heads makes the bodies look very scrawny. So yeah, I think if you beefed them up, you could.
The head.
I'm not suggesting. Maybe I'm not saying they should come back necessarily, but if you did do them again, I think you could make them a bit more.
The head just looks like a helmet, doesn't it? Attached to.
Well, I think that was in the Target book. I think it wasn't it? It's like that was like a ceremonial mask, at least in the Target book.
Right. So we never got to see what was underneath the helmet.
No. Yeah, I see what you mean on that one, on it being a helmet. So I mean, there's some fascinating ones that I mean. I was looking at, for example, you said this one as well, Daryl, which is fascinating. Let me just get them in position. You mentioned the Zarbi.
Wow.
We had the Ruin. David Hardin and others were talking about the Ruin coming back, but the Ruin and the Zarbi, hello. Look at that. Look at that version.
Yeah.
I'd buy into that.
Largely, that's one largely based on the original sketches for the Zarbi, which have the smaller eyes like an ant.
Yeah.
Anyway,
wow.
So there is
a CGI version of it or something, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, or even just you could probably green screen out the legs. If somebody was wearing green legs, you could probably just still have
yeah.
As long as it doesn't knock into the camera. Like story.
So you mentioned them, and then of course it brings into play the
Look at that.
Okay. Wow.
They're beautiful, Daryl. They're beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could return to the web planet, and you could probably do a completely different story. They were the same, life forms on the planet, and maybe a few more.
That's gorgeous.
It is, isn't it? I mean, when you look, I have to say the original, it was the direction, it was various things to do with the production, wasn't it? But in color and with the effects you've got now, and with some of the great prosthetics you can do now, gosh, does anybody want to hire Daryl, please? To look at this. Honestly, Daryl, I would have you in a second doing Doctor Who. I really would.
I think we all would. We'd all like to see this on Doctor Who.
I do love the original. I have to say, I really honestly do love the original Web Planet, only for its sheer ambition. I mean, I have nothing but admiration for them trying to, in that studio, on that budget, trying to craft a completely alien planet. And so I have nothing but admiration for their ambition with that story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, most of these monsters, if they did bring them back, they would be CGI'd, because you wouldn't have a bloke inside a Zarbi costume.
Yeah. Well, let me just throw in this one, because some of you love your 70s Doctor Who, and so I'll just throw in this one. Let me just get to that position. Here we go.
Oh, Primord, yes.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Well, again,
my all-time favorite Doctor Who story ever.
Well, there you go, Gary. I mean, that looks even darker.
Amazing.
Absolutely beautiful. I mean, I've got two kind of rehearsal shots, but you honestly, you see, this is what I mean, Daryl. I feel as though you've got the right vibe for the new Doctor Who. Go darker, go scarier, go more lethal.
That's what this tonight's show has actually told me. Just how they could actually just make the creatures, aliens, just look darker, make them look more menacing. They could do that. Why don't they do that?
Yeah.
And so this is. When you see, and please, I'm going to advertise Daryl's work properly in a second, everybody, if you haven't seen these illustrations before, because honestly, you've gone through it all. The War Machines look a little bit more vibrant than they did.
Who is required.
There, yeah.
Doctor Who is required.
There's your Merker. I mean,
wow.
Yeah, that would have been miles better.
That's certainly an improvement. Let's just put that.
I wouldn't try to karate kick that thing.
No, I wouldn't. And I have to say, so yeah, I couldn't be bothered even showing the pantomime Merker, but that does look good and mess with it. And you look as though you've got electricity. It's got electricity
energy coming from it.
Look at that. That's a great touch.
Yeah. It's got the great charge on it, just to give everybody that. So you can see, hopefully, we've had a nice little debate tonight about the monsters. We've gone over the news, but obviously, Daryl, where do we find you, what you're up to? Now, I think you said, what's your situation with the calendar?
Well, it was pre-orders were up for that until a couple of weeks ago. So as far as I know, if you haven't pre-ordered it, there might be some extra ones, but I won't know for another week or so if there are any extras. So if you're interested, just keep looking out on Twitter, and I'll let everybody know.
So that's the calendar, folks. And with that version of Doctor Who, what were you doing? What kind of template? Because I've been showing you monsters. What do we see with the calendar?
This is just classic moments from stories. So you've got the army, rather than unit, fighting the Yeti in the street, in the foggy streets of London. You've got the conflict between the Daleks and the Mechanoids. You've got Tom Baker running from the Scarrison. You've got that's not in it.
No, that's not. This is from somewhere else. I know. I apologize, but yes, it's.
Oh.
But I just want to show, because we'll advertise all your work, obviously. But oh my God, where do you start with something like this, Daryl? I mean, I know the movie and I know the story, but oh my God, that's just so evocative.
Yeah, fortunately, I moved to drawing digitally, so there's a lot of layers involved in that.
Yeah.
And if I make a mistake, I just wipe the layer out and try again.
Oh, wow.
I mean, look at that. Oh, so it's great to find out. I mean, remember, I love the Sea Devils. I love this picture. Where do people find that picture, Daryl, if they were looking for a copy of it?
That is in the Illustrator Journey, which I think you can still get as a print on demand on Amazon.
Okay.
Right. And where would you find that Mandrill one?
That's also in the Illustrator Journey.
Right. So I'm just showing people that's now. There's the Illustrator Journey, first of all. If you haven't got it, I've got it on my shelf here. Gary's got his version there.
Absolutely.
Beautiful shots. Yeah. So yes, please look that out. But you said you've got you obviously you've got a project you're doing now. What's all this about, Daryl?
Yeah, so the Illustrator Journey was published by Telos, and next year I'm doing another book for Telos. Well, I'm doing it now, and it'll be out next year. And that is one of the images. There'll probably be maybe about 150 images in this book, maybe a little bit more. So it's fully illustrated book again. Not a great deal of text, just images to represent some more classic moments from classic Doctor Who. Probably a little bit of New Who, but New Who doesn't have. Well, I can't really say it. Unless I tell you the title. Unless I tell you the title of the book, I'm going to give the game away. But it's not going to work out.
So there you go, folks. There is a calendar. There is the Illustrator Journey, and keep looking out. But Daryl, you're on X, aren't you? You're on Facebook.
Yeah. Can I just say I did the Zygon today, and
yes, I've got that. I'll flash him up while you talk about it. I'll get him up.
So I did. The original idea for the Zygon was it was based on a fetus, which is why the Zygon is orange, because you used to see images of the fetus would be backlit, so it would be orange.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of been forgotten in New Who when they brought back the Zygons. They just made them orange. They could have made them transparent. They probably couldn't because it's quite difficult to do that. But that would be, ideally you want to try and make them look transparent.
Oh, look at that! I love that. Wow. That's brilliant.
So it's a bit different. Wow. It's not entirely faithful, but it's not entirely faithful to the 1975. But it's 5 or 6. I don't know. No, 75. But it is going back to the original concept that it was a fetus and it was transparent.
And it looks blooming scary.
Looks really good. That's what we want to see.
Because that's the original from Terror of the Zygons.
Release the Scatterson.
Yeah. Oh, John Wooden.
My aesthetic greetings.
Well, yes, I can see what you're doing because you're not obsessed with the hula hoops, as I used to call them, or the spaghetti hoops. That mouth and those eyes. That's body horror there, straight in.
I think the best Zygon is the one that attacks Sarah at the end of episode 1. I don't actually know if it's the nurse, isn't it? But I don't know if the nurse is in the suit or not. Probably not, but that one's got the nose higher and it's got the mouth open, and that's the creepiest looking Zygon, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's a very scary story, I think, for kids. And why can't we bring that back? Behind the sofa was the cliche. So tonight,
I just want to say one thing about this book, which, like I said, is a really prized possession for me that I look at all the time. And I'm being absolutely sincere when I say this, and I'm so happy for the opportunity to be able to say this to Daryl directly. There's at least one art piece for every story through New Who, included in here. And whenever I look at literally any of the pictures, I immediately feel like I felt when I first fell in love with the show. Doesn't matter the picture, because Daryl has this ability to capture like the quintessence of any story, like in just one picture, sometimes two. And I look at it, and it's how I felt like as a kid, falling in love with the show. And so I actually just want to thank Daryl for that.
You're bringing the fun back, Daryl. You're bringing the imagination back. You're bringing the excitement back.
Yeah, I really perceived that. I wasn't aware of your work, but just seeing that and then seeing what I've seen in Doctor Who over the last 15 to 20 years just shows me what has been missing and what could have been created. Yeah, that's a shame.
Thanks both for saying that, because when I was working on it, I wanted to make it, a good book, and I wasn't really interfered with. Nobody said, "Oh, you can't do that and you can't do this." They just let me get on with what I wanted to do, and hopefully, maybe it was better for that. Nobody interfering and saying you can't do this.
Yeah, just do what you can. Yeah,
absolutely lovely. So I was just going to finish off by saying, Daryl, so where can we find you if people tonight are going, "Oh wow, I want more of this"? You're on X, Daryl Joyce, aren't you? And you're on Facebook, Daryl Joyce. On X, everybody, Daryl, you're doing polls all the time, man. What's all that about?
Yeah, I just put up I give you 4 options from classic Who monsters every day at the moment, anyway. They end around 7 o'clock in the evening, UK time, and you get a choice of 4 monsters, and when I can fit it in, I'll draw that monster.
Brilliant.
So there you go, folks. I know, Daryl, you're very popular. You've been on lots of streams. You'd mentioned to me ages ago you're just happy to come on and have a chit chat, but I had to advertise your work because I love it. And I needed to say that as well, because I think, as we've all said, wow, fantastic. You've brought the love back to Doctor Who. You've brought the excitement back. And you've brought some hope back, because I feel like if somebody just saw some of these ideas, we might just have a chance.
Daryl Joyce for showrunner.
Yeah. So can I thank you, Daryl, for coming on? I hope you come on again. Thank you, Jeremy, as well. You keep changing your backdrop, trying to keep up. You're like me. You're trying to keep up with everything.
Well, I love the monsters, so I bring them back.
Michael, thank you. And just shout out your channel, because you've just had a brilliant program, haven't you?
Yes, thanks, Brendan. Yeah, the Solo on Sci-Fi podcast on my channel, which is called Co-Clud, where we just last week we interviewed 4 actors who worked on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and we got some great perspectives. So if you like Star Trek, then check us out.
Yes, I'm going to be on your show soon, aren't I? I think.
Yeah, we've got our episode 200 is coming up very soon. You've obviously got the invite, and we'll love to have you. It's going to be what's been in science fiction over the last 5 years. So obviously you could talk about Doctor Who, and that'd be interesting. So
nice.
Cool.
There we go.
So check out. It's a double whammy. That your Co-Clud is your overall channel, isn't it?
Co-Clud, it features comedy and stuff, but the Solo on Sci-Fi is the science fiction side of things.
That's it. And Gary can be seen at all wholesalers everywhere. He's been a busy boy lately, but good to have you aboard again, Gary.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be back.
Yes, and everybody has said it's a great Monster Mash tonight. I enjoyed it. So thank you, everybody, for your time. Good night, everyone. Good night, D84.
Bye-bye, Duggan.
Bye.
Bye.